Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show for Friday. It's July the 3rd, the day before Independence Day, and I have my friend Steve Baker, who just got off a big interview with Tucker Carlson, coming to share some clarifications, some additional information. We're going to talk about lies, cover-up, and maybe even murder in connection with the Brian Cole Jr. / January 5th, January 6th Pipebomb case. And so today's show is going to be a little more serious than normal. I'm also going to tell you that I woke up this morning with a splitting migraine for no reason. So I'm going to be running a little bit differently than normal. I'm not going to trust my mind. I'm going to be writing on a notepad. So if you see me looking down, I'm going to be working off that. And I'm going to do my best. Steve and I talked about this. Steve has a way of sharing the story in his own time, and I'm going to try to hammer him to it so that we can get it really to you, because I think people want as much information as possible in the tightest format. And I understand that need. You know, people told me that they couldn't handle doing 2.5 hours. I watched it for you, and then we're going to do some clarification. If you're live in our chat this morning, thanks so much for joining us live, and we really appreciate it. You can put your questions in the chat. I'll do my best to monitor that as well. And if some of them are relevant or salient, I think that we need to know and address them, then I will. So that's going to be the case. That's what we're doing today. We're going to get into it, and I've got some visual aids to bring as well. Before we get started, I'll just thank my friends over at Patriot Protect. The website is patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Most people don't realize that there are hundreds of companies that you've never heard of that are publishing your home address, your phone number, even your kids' names, unless you happen to work for the CIA and they scrub all that stuff for you. You might need to get a service like Patriot Protect. Cyber criminals will look you up. They'll find out who you are, where you live, the things that are all about you, your home address, your email, and so on. They'll find out your kids listed on Facebook. They'll go and figure out some birthdays, and then they've got half the answers to the security questions that will help them log into a bank account that they stole from the dark web. There's a lot that can be done with the information that's out there on these data brokers. If you want your information scrubbed, folks like Patriot Protect have been doing it for several years now, and they do it for my family. They do it for my parents. They do it for other suspendables as well. So check into them, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Make sure there's nothing left for criminals to search and scumbags, and maybe even former FBI agents out there trying to look into what's going on in the open source place. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. You'll save 15%, and you will save. It'll cost you about $5 a month. It's not an expensive thing to do. It is worth your privacy and your protection. Look into them. Let's get into today's show. We'll start it right now. Okay, y'all, we're not going to do a whole lot of warm-up into this. I don't think there's a ton of introduction required, but briefly speaking, this is my friend Steve Baker. I'm bringing him on. He's wearing the CIA hat, just in case you guys were wondering. He likes to wear that just to troll, I think, all of you. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. No, I wore this in honor of my impending lawsuit. You know, I've got, the law firm of Clare, Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and Gray Lady after me right now.
That checks.
And it's certainly being funded by, if not directly by the CIA, by some NGO or otherwise connected entity. So, yeah, I'm just saying hello and good morning to them because they'll be here. You know that.
Yeah, so we should just say right up front, for those of you that are in the chat watching live, we can pretty much expect that we'll get some technical issues at some point in time, even if I have a flawless show otherwise on other days. There are moments when this thing goes off the rails and we'll have Steve cut out and he'll disappear and come back. And so I appreciate all you guys just knowing that in advance. That's been the case every single time that we've done a long form interview, I think. I don't think we've ever done one without issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're aware that there may be additional little additional challenges. Steve, real quickly, do you want to give like the 7 bullet points, how you got to this place? Tell me, start from the musician bit, and then let people kind of know, so people understand if they've never heard before, and they can go listen to the first hour of Tucker's show and kind of get your background too. But let's maybe do it in like 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, the bottom line is that for years I had been establishing an online presence as a blogger, a shit poster, a political commentary person, an analyst, doing journalism on the side for over 25 years at this point. Crap. Kyle, it's been over 30 years. I keep forgetting what year we're in right now.
Right. You're in 2021 still.
Yeah. Well, it's lost time since 2020. You fast forward to 2020, and that entire time I had been making my living from the music business, but live performance and other aspects of the music industry. And then you fast forward to COVID, and 2 weeks to flatten the curve became 2 months. And in my business, live music, it became 2 years. And so I just, as I've always characterized this, I moved the journalism side of my life to the captain's chair and moved my music to the co-pilot seat. 2.5 years ago, I actually ejected my co-pilot, and I've been doing this, full time without the buffer or the safety net of my earnings, from the music business. And then, of course, that ultimately led to me being available to go to and cover an event like January 6th. I was there. I went inside the building. I performed and behaved as a journalist, as 80 to 100 other journalists did that day, who also went through the same door or went through the broken windows and were not charged at all. And then I always also characterize what happened to me is that as a result of the COVID-19 regime and lockdowns and mandates and things of that nature, and the fact that they took my career away from me and actually declared I was a non-essential worker, that they weaponized me against them.
Yeah.
And then when they went after me again after January 6th, they weaponized me against them to an entirely different level, because, as they say on the TV, the movie announcements, this time it's personal.
Okay. A couple other things that I want to highlight for the background for those that do not know already. You spent some interesting time while you were a musician, also working behind the Iron Curtain, that you got an experience. People can go back and listen to old episodes, and I encourage you to do so. We did a whole episode talking about how you were riding trains and strip shirts by the KGB and doing sort of dissident work on behalf of Christianity and Western culture in general. So you're an interesting guy. You also grew up with a father who was a private investigator in Louisiana, and you did work on that. You did stakeouts and surveillance and watched cheating spouses and did all kinds of fun things and interacted with law enforcement in a professional capacity as kind of like a adjunct private investigator. And I say all these things so that people see a guy who played a trumpet and was in a Bowie impersonation band or a tribute band. There was additional parts of your life that I think have led you to this point and made you the kind of the guy that you are and why you're good at what you do right now. Also, for those of you who've never met Steve Baker in person, he's eminently lovable. And so people like to know him. They want to hang out with him and they want to talk to him. He's a great listener and a good storyteller and a good companion. So I think that helps to recruit sources. And not everybody I've met that's interested in journalism are personable. A lot of them are effing weirdos, if we're being real.
Yeah.
They're not people I want to hang out with. And when they call you on the phone, you're like, it's going to be awkward. It's like talking to an autistic person who doesn't know that you're there still. They're just trying to elicit information. I also want to plug your journalism right now, because you've gone from being one thing to being another thing. And you were working for the Blaze. They fired you, that you forced their hand to fire you over this whole situation. And so this is your current project. If you want to plug it first, I want to do that up front. And then we're going to get into the reporting of it that I think led to a lot of people's eyes being open that weren't previously aware of this story.
Yeah. One thing that you did say about my work years and years ago behind the Iron Curtain, you should put that on your notepad, because this is another new thing that has come up, because I am now being attacked by the fags over that issue.
The fags are the former agents group. For those of you who are worried about being offensive, these are former FBI agents. Carry on.
Right. We're not talking about LGBTQ here right now.
That's right.
The fags have now started attacking me and claiming that, in fact, I mean, they've literally come out and said it, that I've worked for the CIA.
Right. You're an intel asset because previously you've done work that would have been supportive of America. They're also intel assets. They worked for an intelligence agency too. That's really funny and rich.
Right. So yeah, we could clarify that going forward. And then, yes. So what happened? It was April 1st. I did force the Blaze's hand. It wasn't negotiated firing, by the way. This was not just suddenly I woke up one morning and got a call from my boss and they laid me off. This was when this was a 6-month process
Yeah.
of them putting me under a gag order. It was a censorship regime directly related to our story about the pipe bomb that came out on November 8th. And I was even ordered not to do any more investigations on that whatsoever. And I of course, told them to pound sand. I was going to continue that process and they could fire me if they chose to. So they closed their eyes and their ears so that they could feign not knowing what I was doing on my own time.
Right.
And I continued the process. And then as I continued the process, I continued to learn more and more and more. And as I did, I couldn't keep myself silent any longer. So I reached the point where I was about to bust and I had to come out. So by the time we got to April 1st, that was the day. And the night before, April 1st
this year.
Yeah, this year. The night before, I got a call from my editor-in-chief. He said, "You still going forward with it?" At that time, we had Megyn Kelly booked the next day, that I was going to reveal all of my new things on her show. And we also knew something else was happening that morning that was rather significant. So at 6:30 the night before April Fool's Day, I got a call from my editor-in-chief. He said, "You're still doing this?" I said, "Yep, still doing this." And he said, "Okay. Well," he said, just so you know, you're going to get your termination notice in the morning." He said, "It's going to be rather tersely worded. I assure you," he said, "that I did not write the language." And he said, "So please don't put that on me. And I hope that we can remain friends going forward." I said, "Hey, no problem, Chris. You and I, we're good." And so with that, at 9:30 a.m., I got my termination letter from the Blaze. At 11:30 a.m., there was a court filing that showed that one Miss Shawnee Kirkoff, who we named as the potential forensically matched pipe bomber for January 5th, was it was revealed that she had flunked an FBI polygraph.
I feel like I have that too.
What's that?
I think I've actually got the document so we can show that just for those who haven't seen it before. I want to tighten in on the fact that you had to leave the Blaze, and so then you've launched this. And so if anybody wants to support, there is a link in today's show description. They can go and follow you, veritasregnat.com. So it's very easy for you to find it. All you got to do is scroll into the show notes. You can also follow Steve at the handle that I keep putting on the screen, which is at Steve Baker USA. And I want to make sure that we get those up front so you guys can follow this. And you're clearly suppressed the same way that my social media is suppressed. And that being said, we're still going to get this message out to people that want to hear it. So share it with somebody, share this interview with somebody. We're going to add on to the Tucker piece. I wanted to go directly into this particular piece because I think that you told me this maybe 2 months ago. I don't know. You've known this for a while. How long have you known about the Smartwatch thing that the pipe bomber had?
October.
Okay. And so I maybe heard about it sometime last year then. I know I've known about it for way too long. And I just am like, I've been waiting for you guys to put the story out because it's not my story and I'm not going to talk about it. Let's talk about, I've got the video. Do you want to just show the video and talk through it? Because I've got it for...
let's do that.
Okay. So here's the video that's published with the story. It's at Veritas Regnat. This is a Vimeo hosting, and the easiest way to do it was just take it off the screen here. So explain what we're seeing.
Well, I'm not seeing that for some reason. Normally, I see I see your.
Oh, I know what's going on. You're not seeing all the things that I should be showing you. Give me 1 second here. I can easily fix that. I'm so sorry. Baker, let me put you back. You didn't even know what I was doing here. I have the. I got to turn the virtual camera on. Give me 2 seconds here. This is what I get for running last minute. Virtual camera coming back your way. Now you should see both of us.
I see us side by side now. All right.
Fantastic. All right, here's the video, and we're going to go back here to it. Ready? And start right there. All right, talk me through it.
Okay, yeah. This is the alleged, or the pipe bomber, the gray hooded carrier of the two devices. We refer to this person as Hoodie, so that's how I'll do it. So Hoodie is walking through Rumsey Court alleyway. This is behind the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club. This is just before planting the last or the second of the two devices. So as the Hoodie character is walking through there, if you go back to the very first scene there.
You want me to go back?
Yeah. So
and hold on one second or two, and I'm going to apologize to the audience that's listening. I built 2 scenes so that I could get this video on the screen easily, and there's an echo built into it. I just got it canceled out. I'm sorry. So I had some open audio settings. It's not anyone screwing with us. That's Kyle Seraphin screwing up. This is what happens when I'm trying to build things on the fly here. We don't often do it exactly this way. All right. So again, I'll stop it anytime you say.
freeze it right.
I think we just missed it, didn't we?
When the right there.
Okay. This is what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, and then if you let it roll forward a little bit until we highlight it, and then it comes back. This is just a repeat, and boom. All right, now freeze it there.
Okay.
You see this flash. Now look, we've watched this video. I don't know how many times. I don't know how many millions of times that this has been seen, because this is actually one of the videos released by the FBI. Believe it or not, this is not some special video that we found in our own unique access that we've had to Capitol CCTV. But our guy that we talk about all the time, who goes by the name online as Armitage. He is a video engineer, expert, and he is uniquely wired. I'll just say that about him, the way his own brain works.
Yeah.
That for the last couple of years, he has been absolutely obsessed with the J6, J5 pipe bomber. And he has spent more time than any other person on this planet. He spent more time collectively by himself than all of the FBI analysts put together on this.
Sure.
And then when you take into account the fact that this was also one of the 30 seconds, part of the 30 seconds of video that the FBI has deigned to release in the last 5.5 years, that nobody else has seen this, but look, you can see it yourself right there. There's a flash.
It's pretty obvious, especially with the zoom in here, but we're looking at night vision camera, so I'm going to add a little bit of color to this, folks. Everything is kind of highlighted aggressively. The it's using the infrared look, so when it does, lights are going to appear much more aggressively than they would in any normal setting. And so this is very clearly set out against with a bright white against a wrist that otherwise didn't have it.
That's correct.
So it shows up briefly on there. And by the way, I'm wearing one right now. In fact, we could probably play the game where I send a text to my own watch here. And
I could absolutely do the same thing.
Yeah, I'll send you one right now if you want to leave your watch. If people have never done this, and look, I understand that this is what year we're in right now, but most people have probably seen it. And if you haven't paid attention to it, I'm going to send you a text. Here it is. And so if we do that, it should light up. And when it does, it's not forever. There it is. Boom. Just a light little illumination of the screen, and then it goes away. And if you're
depending upon your setup or whatever app, no, this is obviously Signal. So depending upon if that had been another type of text messaging thing, it could have been a very, very bright white. That's obviously what happened here. All of a sudden, there's a message that comes through on the watch. There's communication happening, by the way. And
apparently it's two-way.
That's correct, which we'll get to. And so, again, millions of people have seen this, and nobody caught it except Armitage. And he found it in October.
So this is the arm gesture that was called out. So you guys highlighted this. What are we highlighting here specifically?
Okay, so let me just lay a little bit more background on this. After Armitage found the flash of the smartwatch in Rumsey Court. Now that's towards the end of the 45-minute stroll of the bomber. So we had to go back to all the video again, and we start reviewing everything, doing it all over again. And we've done it hundreds of times. Now we're doing it all over again. And we found 7 incidences just like this, where we thought they were shoulder shrugs or arm motions or all kinds of other things that were going on. And we're like, well, I'll be damned. The bomber is bringing the wrist up, holding the wrist in front of Hoodie's mask.
And these are left arm. It looks like one of these may be a right arm motion. This one looks like a right arm motion, unless I can't tell. And I guess actually, no, there's the crook of the arm. It is still the left arm.
And so we find 7 incidences. Now, we only have 21 minutes of the total 45-ish minutes that the bomber was on foot. Now, we know that the FBI has much more than that, because they themselves have said that they have 30 1,000 video files because they were able to do things that we're not able to do. They were able to go in and canvass the neighborhood, get ring cams, security cams from the businesses that were passed by. So they have infinitely more video than we do. But we were in the 21 minutes of video that we've been able to acquire. We have counted 7 times that Hoodie brings the left arm up to the face, obviously in communication with somebody.
Obviously,
it's not a solo operation.
Right. What are we seeing here?
It's just another example.
That one's really hard to see, isn't it?
Yeah, but you saw it right there.
Yeah, the arm comes back down, so I can see that. And so that was the question always, is like, what is this person doing? So I made this point yesterday, and I'll kind of kick it out there. When I run, and I'm not much of a runner as far as skill, but I am a person who runs relatively frequently at poorly. And I wear a running watch. This is a Garmin smartwatch. I wear a chest band heart rate monitor when I do this. And if I move my arms in abnormal ways to my normal run, it will actually pick up a different pace, and it'll change a lot of the things that it's gathering for the dynamics that I want the watch to actually gather. So there are certain things like my left-right balance, the speed and cadence of my footsteps. I want it to obviously get the heart rate. There's some other things in there. The vertical oscillation is measured in my heart rate. So anyway, people who use these things, these tools, and actually calibrate their runs, not Steve Friends who freakishly go do like 12 miles every single day, but people that are kind of like more nerdy and want the technology. And I'm one of those people. You have to maintain a posture that doesn't change very dramatically. And also, if you're somebody who's had an injury, and I've injured both of my lower legs, and I've also pulled all the muscles in them many times. I have to really maintain a pretty solid footing that doesn't change. I want my steps to be as repeatable as possible, because things that deviate outside of it cause me injury and have historically. And I say that knowing that when I go and I do a treadmill run, if I'm running and my arms are kind of pumping left and right, and I want to just do a check to my watch for what is my heart rate right now, or what's the vertical oscillation, or what's my pace and my cadence, I'll scroll through this, but my movements are the same every single time, Steve. Like they're very mechanical, and they are very repetitive, and they are the same no matter where I am or where I'm running, or how fast I'm running, because I'm trying to maintain the exact same posture so that it gathers the same data. And that's something I think is common for people that are neurotic about that. That plays into something that Marshall Yates shared with you. And Marshall Yates is the former Massey staffer, and then also was a congressional liaison from the FBI back to Congress, which is completely illogical, but he got hired on under Patel. And he's no longer with the FBI now, and he should probably give you a call. He shared something with you about running and why he thought somebody was a marathon runner.
Yeah,
and that's coming. You want to just...
This was... back when he was still working for Massey. So this was prior to February, March of last year, 25, when he moved over to FBI as the liaison to Congress. And so he told me, sitting in Massey's office, Massey wasn't there that day. He and I were having a private meeting, and Marshall Yates told me very specifically that we needed to be looking for, if we were in fact looking for the pipe bomber, we needed to be looking for a marathon runner, because the movements of the arms, the shoulder, some of the shoulder movements seem to show and be indicative of repetitive stress disorder that is unique to marathon runners who are doing, as you're talking about, that movement of the arms back and forth millions and millions of times over a marathon runner's career. That happens, creates a shoulder stress disorder.
So the other thing that's being pointed out in our chat, and I think it's actually worth noting, is that if you are a runner who's used to running in places that you haven't always run, it gets boring running the same route every single time. It's almost... I think it's very common. I actually used to do this with our instructors in the military. They plug in waypoints, GPS waypoints, into your watch. And that can be a really good, useful way for something to light up and tell you where you're going. Now, whether that happened or not,
wouldn't that be interesting?
It's an interesting technology. It also would mean that there's probably a record of it, because all of these things, whether it's walk, jog, run, or whether it's a built-in app that's part of the Garmin or something like that, when you build out a run, there's an app that's involved, and there's also it's notifying you where you're at in this route. Very interesting if that was something that could be proven. Also interesting that 51 phone numbers were excluded from the original search. And do we have any information, Steve, that these numbers that were reported excluded to Congress were ever reevaluated?
We know, and I have to kind of obliquely talk about one aspect right now because we have a story forthcoming on this. We're still, I know people hate that. God, I get so much fucking trouble when I tease something. This is not a tease, but people don't understand. We can't just learn about something and then run to the internet and type it out. It's like,
right.
Hold on, Susie, we're going to get to it, but it has to be done right. We have to investigate every possible aspect of the thing that we have discovered. Well, we have discovered a thing. And guess what? It's a thing that we learned about months and months and months and months ago, and it's taken this long to get everything right so that we can present it so that it's bulletproof. Just like this right here. We've known about this since October.
Which says a lot about the amount of time. And one of the criticisms people have had is that you were just callously like winging it and you're just throwing information out there. And that's not the experience I've had with you, but that as an example, you knew that there was a watch. I've heard about it for months from you. And then, you finally released this thing, day before yesterday?
Yeah.
So it's not something that was like, oh, we found something, let's run. And this is the difference between people who are doing investigations that are working on behalf and with law enforcement, because there's some pretty serious implications to what you guys are involved in. And then maybe saying like, oh, there's a video of a microphone somewhere and like, let's run with this cell phone footage that we don't have, confirmation of. And so this is why I've stayed out of the Charlie Kirk thing. This is why I've not gotten into it. I don't find it as interesting. And I'm also going to wait until we see what is available in the preliminary hearing that happens next week. Doesn't mean that the quote unquote investigators that are doing this are wrong. It means they're approaching this very differently. This case is 5+ years old. There's been a $500,000 reward issued by the FBI for a long time. And then suddenly after you had a break in what you believe was revealing, that's when we got something snapped into action that was pretty unexpected, I think, based on the fact that there was no impetus otherwise for them to just jump out and do this. And I've got actually a handful of different clips of that kind of discussion. I don't know if you want me to play the Catherine Herridge where she interviewed Kash Patel, and he kind of like stated that there might be something coming out, and this was just after you guys did your bid.
Right.
And they were ignoring you. They completely ignored what you guys were involved in.
Yeah, you can definitely roll that.
Let me give you guys some context about how the FBI director did this. This is a 2-minute clip. This is Kash Patel talking with Catherine Herridge, and they were basically doing cover, as far as I could tell. They were doing a cover story on how do we not have whatever this problem is, and how do we not acknowledge Steve Baker?
In a recent cable news interview with Fox, you said to stay tuned about the January 6th pipe bomber case. Are there new developments we can discuss?
There are new developments. Can we discuss them? Not at this time, but I think you'll be hearing from us soon on it.
Are you closer to making an arrest?
When we took over the FBI, we knew there was a renewed interest in a lot of cases of great public importance. And of course, this one, where it was alleged that someone went to the United States Capitol grounds and planted a bomb to possibly blow up then Vice President Kamala Harris or other Republicans and other Democrats on Capitol Hill.
I'm just going to pause this. Steve, you can also talk over anytime you want, but let's just remember that the question was, are you any closer to making an arrest? And he said, I'm going to tell you a long story about things that I like to talk about that have to do with when I got this job. Okay. And that's where we're at right now with what he's saying. When somebody can't answer directly, like, yeah, I think we're actually a lot closer and the investigation's been moving forward and here's some of the we're applying new tactics or something. That would be the normal way that you'd answer this question, unless you just want to tell a story and take people off their game. Good. That's fair.
Was one we felt important enough to redouble our investigative tactics. And that's what we've done. And like...
Guys, do you ever notice too that Kash Patel does the reggae talk where he talks like a teenage girl from the Valley in the 1970s? He's like, the investigative techniques that we've done, like almost all these statements end up being a question.
We did in the Comey case when we made presentations in court. When the American public finds out the presentations we will be making, if we get to a judicial decision, then they will see how much was missed in this case. And what we have done, and I hope the American public will realize our commitment to putting out as much information as we can, when we can, on cases of great public importance.
Literally, the question was, are you any closer to making an arrest? And you got no answer to that for anyone who's paying attention.
A lot of media reporting about the pipe bomb case recently. Have there
She's talking
been
about
any
you.
significant breakthroughs for the FBI in recent days?
Yes.
Of course, I'd like to have a little bit more.
That's a really
but
nice way of
Can
asking.
you share any more? Do you expect that there will be a charge before the end of the year?
My job is to protect the integrity of the investigation, and I know that causes a lot of backlash from some sectors of the online community, but I'd rather speak through our casework in public and be able to assure the American public that we are delivering actual accountability than just sit here and tell you,
Okay.
I think we're going to get them.
Why did he say him?
By the way, when Patel goes, court? Like that? That's because he's so used to like, anyway. So
You said it, not me. It's probably true though. Watching that stuff, you can tell that he's trying to rehearse something that he did, or he's trying to figure out how to navigate, and he's not quite as good as. It's a lot easier to speak clearly, concisely, answer questions, and he doesn't do that. So I want to get into the story real quick too, because there's a second part of it. Obviously, the fact that there is a watch involved in the hoodie pipe bomber is the first part of the story. There's probably 3 parts to it. That's part 1. There's a suspect who's been arrested. His name is Brian Cole Jr. You want to give your quick synopsis of Brian Cole Jr. and who he is?
yeah, of course, Brian Cole Jr. is the young man who was arrested by the FBI, basically exactly 1 month after we dropped our infamous November 8th story about Miss Kirkoff. And of course, you and I know a lot about this case. We've been public about it. The FBI did not put a surveillance team on his house until 5 days after our story came out. We know beyond any shadow of a doubt, by the FBI's own admission, that they had already looked at him 5 years prior. They had already developed an entire investigative file on him 5 years prior. And they even admitted in their press conference after his arrest that this was not new information, that they just went back and reopened old information they had. So obviously, they had reason to look at Brian Cole Jr. 5.5 years ago, and they closed the case, or they went, there's not enough there. But it was then when this unknown and euphemistically referred to team as the red team was put on it, that they went back and reopened this.
Right.
And they allegedly found the there and found enough reason to go ahead and arrest him the first week of December. And then what we know about him, he comes from an incredibly solid family. This is not, look, I'm going to be, there's not a racial element to this story that I know of.
And it's interesting that that the media has stayed away from that racial element.
They have.
Right. And it's in DC.
Yes.
And that's a big thing to do in DC.
Now, there's not a racial element to it. In a recent interview that Brian's father has done, with on a podcast, sitting beside their attorney, Mario Williams. Brian Cole has 2 different sets of attorneys. They're working together as a team. They're not working against one another.
Right.
But basically, you have one team that's dealing more with the civil rights aspect of this case, and then you have the criminal defense team that's working on the hardcore, legal aspects of this. And so the interview that was given just a couple of weeks ago, that was the first time that I actually ever heard Brian Cole's team, including his own father, play the race card. This is the first time.
And that is kind of what Mario Williams' practice is built on, from what I can tell. He's kind of like maybe a different version of Benjamin Crump, kind of focuses in on those types of stories.
Yeah, that's fair. And so I was not offended by it whatsoever. I think it's a fair thing to do, because there's been far too many. Look, I grew up in Louisiana, and in my father's own work, he did work for Black families whose sons had been framed.
Right. Didn't Tucker actually mention something to that effect with you while you were sitting on that interview?
Yeah, there was a 1962 Georgetown case where an autistic Black person was framed, by the federal government for a crime.
Right.
And
had you heard that story before you sat down with him?
No, I had never heard that story.
Just watching him laugh because he's drawing the same connection. It's like there's not a lot of creativity in the in the book.
Well, they just go 60 years later, they go back to the same playbook.
Yeah. Well, 60 years later, makes you wonder if they've just been doing the same thing the whole time. Some of this, you know, that the tactic is they're probably not going to catch up with us. But if they do, there's a guy that actually does this on Instagram. His whole thing is that he just does this like really dry, sarcastic, fake government guy persona where he just talks about crazy conspiracies and then he explains them away in the way that like it could have been from the guys that were in the room kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, I told him that was never going to work. And they're like, that's okay because nobody will ever read into it more. And so they just do this back and forth. We may actually end with one of those. It's sad. It's not creative.
Let me go down the race trail here just a little bit further because you and I have never done this with regards to this case.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have not, in my own perception, perceived anything race related in this, either from the government or otherwise, is that in my comment sections, there's always people on there that, and I'm sorry to say it, it's coming from quote unquote our side,
right,
who don't buy or who believe in Kash Patel's FBI and Bongino's FBI and Trump's FBI, that this is a righteous arrest. They will impugn Brian Cole and his family as if, you know, they were some sort of ghetto family and, you know, I didn't do nothing, you know, that kind of racism. Because that's what it is. And so what I was going to say is this is not some ghetto DC family.
Right.
This is middle class to upper middle class, extremely, very successful father.
So this came up yesterday on Alex Jones' show. He's like, I don't know how these people can afford to have defense. And I was like, I think his father is relatively well-to-do, yes. Has a successful bail bonds business, not with the mother, but the mother lives in a nice house, lives in a house where everybody makes six figures in the neighborhood, guaranteed. I know people that live there. You've met people there. You've walked the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's a nice place. I almost moved like 400 yards away from their house. I almost bought the house that was one street over from where Brian Cole's family is.
I've been in the mother's house. I've been in the grandmother's house,
and it was pricey, by the way. It was a stretch for me and my family to move into that neighborhood. So it's a nice neighborhood.
The grandmother lives in a gated golf course community.
Yeah,
I mean, this is not. As I said, this is not ghetto.
I'm gonna play this real quickly. That's the neighborhood, folks, and I'm just gonna show you what it looks like. So that's it's a different video that we may come back to later, but that's the house. That's the car that Brian Cole Jr. is driving, and so that's neither here nor there. But the actual home it's a very stately looking Northern Virginia home, and it's in a very nice neighborhood where they don't have fences and they've got forest behind them. And even though Woodbridge is not necessarily nice, that's a really nice part of Woodbridge. You've probably seen as you turned off the main roads there there are places that are not nice. And then that place is.
There's Woodbridge is in all phases of decline and gentrification right now.
Yeah, that's
so it's been around for a long time. So it's well-established community.
Okay. Let me refocus us on, we're talking about the sort of secondary, there's two versions of the defense team. One team went out and talked about the race card, which we haven't heard yet. And it hasn't really taken any play. The media hasn't bitten on that, which I think is maybe more interesting than them bringing it up.
I'm the only one that I know of who has actually played the race card in this case. I'm the one who has been saying there's no way a DC jury is going to convict an autistic black man with this much reasonable doubt involved in this case. And I've had, and you know this, you know who I'm talking about. I've had mainstream journalists with major media outlets who I've said this to, and they go, I don't know. And then what do I always say to them? I say, who are the two oath keepers that were acquitted of their crimes? And they're like, what? I said, do you know who are the two oath keepers? I said, what is the commonality between the two oath keepers that were acquitted of their crimes? Alleged crimes.
Right.
And you know the answer.
Yeah.
They were both black.
They were both black.
DC jury.
It don't lie. And it doesn't, it performs as expected, I would say. So DC and Janine Pirro and the remain. So of the 4 people that celebrated this victory, which in the press conference, it was Janine Pirro, it was Dan Bongino, it was Kash Patel, and it was Pam Bondi. And Bondi's gone, Bongino's gone, and so the 2 that are left are going to have to hold this bag. The other 2 can like let their private sector credibility fall apart. We did a bit on the watch. The opening lines of your story, which I have on the screen right now from Veritas Regnat, Brian Cole Jr., the Virginia man being prosecuted, has never worn a watch, owned an Apple Watch or a similar device. Tell me about why you know that. Tell me about how you went about finding that out or why you believe that's true.
I think I've already revealed, and I've publicly stated this now. I personally have spent many hours with the family.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent time in the family home. I've spent time in Brian's bedroom. I've spent an hour in his bedroom.
Alone.
Yeah, and with his mother there, showing me things, kind of, look, they've left Brian's bedroom in the exact condition that the FBI left it on the day that their home was raided and that his room was ransacked. The only thing they've done is they put the drawers back into the chest of drawers, that sort of thing. They put the mattresses back on the frame. I mean, the FBI didn't even put the mattresses back on the frame. So that sort of thing. So other than that, it's in the same condition. Everything is left as was.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian to say that he's a minimalist is a bit of an understatement. He has nothing on his walls at all. In fact, this is curious. This is just one of those curious things about his particular brand or phase or characteristic of his autism is he doesn't like accoutrements. He doesn't wear jewelry at all. There is no family photography in his history of him wearing jewelry. In fact, all of the family have a gift of an urn necklace.
Okay.
And the only thing hanging on Brian Cole's wall is his urn necklace because he won't wear it. All the other family members wear the necklace, but he won't wear it.
And then there was something in the story. The mom owns an Apple Watch, but he was never going to use it, and it doesn't play well with an Android.
Well,
his phone was
okay.
Android.
Well, here's the other thing about Brian, and the FBI is well aware of this: is Brian is not an Apple guy. The rest of the family are Apple people. Apple Watches, Apple phones. They use the iMessage service, and as his mother puts it, says Brian is the only family member who his messages show up green on her phone. And people that use an Apple know that when somebody is not using an Apple,
heathens.
we see it on our iPhones as a green message rather than a blue message, and so. This is a characteristic of him. He doesn't use Apple computers, watches, phones, otherwise. He uses a Galaxy phone. And by the way, the Galaxy phone that he used that he has set back to factory settings.
Yeah, like 900 times.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
The screen is so shattered that the mother is like, Brian, let's get you a new phone, And he would not even repair his phone. He doesn't like change. He's a person of routine. So back to the watch things. How do I know that he doesn't wear a watch? There's no history, no family photography whatsoever of him ever wearing a watch of any kind or jewelry of any kind.
Oh, that's good. You just froze up after I put this on the screen. That's funny.
Interesting.
This is from the New York Times article. This is not a Kyle Seraphin original. I found this on the New York Times article, which is still available, and you guys can find it if you're so inclined. I'll add it to the comments over on YouTube. It looks like this. This is the article. And should you scroll down in that article and get down, you'll end up with this picture, which is where I got it. And so I'm going to go back to it just so we're aware. And what does that look like to you, just out of curiosity? Looks a lot like that Apple Watch that you also sport. It's pretty distinctive the way the Apple Watch looks. It's pretty distinctive. Now, the New York Times credits this to Shawnee Kirkoff's own personal collection of photos. This is her standing on maybe the parapet at the Capitol looking out over the National Mall, and it's dated 2017 per the New York Times, not me. Again, I'll put it on here so you guys can see it, but it says 2017 right here. So that's a 2017 picture. And then at some point, she also took this picture, which is all over the internet, and I actually just shrunk it down. I ripped it off somebody's Facebook post or something. So this is not a Kyle original. I didn't circle it. It's not me doing that, but I'm taking it from the open source. And I can't help but notice that I can zoom in on it and see that same watch, which makes sense. Like, these things are expensive. You wouldn't have a lot of them. You probably wouldn't update them unless you broke them. Mine comes back from, shoot, I had this when I was in the FBI, so it's at least 5 years old, and it might be 7 years old. It's a Phoenix 5. So whatever it is, I think they're on the Phoenix 8 or 9 now. Anyway, so, you keep these watches. They're not cheap. You hold on to them. You use them a lot, and they're durable and they work. Just pointing out things that are true. And so it's your belief that there is no watch in Brian Cole Jr.'s history of any kind, let alone a smartwatch. His mother says so. He had access to that stuff. It's not that they couldn't afford it. He just is he's not an accoutrement guy, as you said.
I'll reveal one other aspect about the watch without going into too much more, because we do know more about the watch. But okay. I'll let one more thing out, is that there, as you're aware of, is that when someone's home is raided by the FBI and then things are taken from the home, there's an inventory list.
That's right.
That the FBI leaves with the family, or the family members or whatever who were left behind when there's an arrest made. And there's an inventory list of what has been removed from the home.
Yes, it is a seizure list for everybody. It's signed off on by the seizing agent. It tells you what they grabbed by detail. So, box of CDs, numbering 25 of them, blah, 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 like, papers from desk. It's everything, because it's part of the inventory. It's part of the log of evidence as well. So it gets signed off on before you leave, and then that's the last thing you leave on the door when you leave, and you say, have a nice day. And then they awkwardly accept it, and then you leave with all their stuff.
And one of the things that the family has revealed to me, and it is on the seizure list, is the fact that the FBI took Brian's mother's Apple Watch.
Smart. What do you make of that?
They knew about it. They knew that the bomber, the hoodied bomber, was wearing a smartwatch.
So I'll give a alternative on there. It's a possibility that every single search warrant I've ever seen that is looking for digital media will cite that all digital media can be grabbed. Did they leave any digital devices, phones, or anything else that were in the house?
Not that I'm aware of. They took everything. I mean, they took everybody's
They took mom's
laptops
phones and everything else too?
Yeah, they took, the mom had 2 iPads. They took both of them. They took, of course, all of the devices out of Brian's room.
Yep.
He had some notebooks. Obviously, his hard drive, his CPU was taken. The screens were still there on his desk.
I think Brian's mom told me that they grabbed like an old router or something like that, and said it was a hard drive, and she was like, "It's a broken router. We just can't throw stuff out because we're junk collectors sometimes, like everybody else."
Yeah,
maybe we'll fix it.
And then of course, the naysayers and the fags, the former agents group, they will of course contend. Well, there was Brian clearly had access to a smartwatch, an Apple Watch, and that's what he was wearing that night on his stroll around DC to the DNC and the RNC and behind in Rumsey Court, and that was the flash that we saw with his mom's watch. Well, his mom is absolutely adamant that this autistic young man did not all of a sudden. So he was 25 on January 5th, 2021. He was 25 years old. He didn't go his entire life without ever wearing or owning a watch. Doesn't like accoutrements of any type. He doesn't wear accessories. And so he didn't just suddenly not only put it on, but then learn to use it. And let's pretend that he did. Okay. Who the hell is he talking to?
Right. Because we already know he's kind of a loner. He pretty much operates in his own little space that people who see him think that he's not even in this world, and he's just on the routine. All of that's super strange. And I brought it up yesterday, and my parents called and laughed at it because I said, there's only one person in my entire life that I know. And I know a fair number of people, and I talk to a fair number of people, and I've known people and worked in the world. And I only know one human being that talks on their smartwatch, and it's my mom. And it's the most boomer reason ever. It's because she just like forgets where her phone is. And then she like answers the phone on her watch to talk to my kids. And she's like, I'm looking for my phone. And she runs around the house looking for the phone. She's the only person I know that does that. Yeah. And it's very comical to me. When I said it, they knew I was talking about her. I just don't know anybody that does that. It's kind of a weird thing to do. You're either like really, really into the tech, or you really don't know how to use technology. Those are the only two people that would be talking into the phone that bought it. And they're like, the nice thing is I could do the Dick Tracy thing from the 1950s. And I don't think Shawnee Kirkoff was old enough to remember Dick Tracy movies. Which I went down this weird rabbit hole, Steve. I remember watching, wasn't there a Dick Tracy that was remade in the 1990s with like Madonna in it?
Yeah, Madonna and
good.
gosh, the actor's name. I'm blanking right now, but yeah.
He's like there was like all that like funny talk, and there was a guy going, he's like walnuts, they're good for your liver, and the guy's like, they're bad for your brain, you dummy, and then they end up like roasting the guy. I just remember I watched it at a drive-in movie.
Right. That's great.
I have one memory of watching a single movie at a drive-in, and I'm pretty sure it was Dick Tracy, which is a great movie to watch at a drive-in. Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty funny and weird. Let me take a quick little jump over here and just remind people, if you're watching the stream and you're watching us live, make sure you guys give us a like at this point. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't done so already, Rumble and YouTube. We'll insert an ad here on the audio platform, so I'm giving you the heads up. And now you know. Follow us if you want on the replay. If you have any issues, you can find it on Spotify. It's KyleSeraphinShow.com. Easiest way to find us. It is our most monetized platform when it comes to making money on it. But more importantly, I think it's the best sort of back and forth experience. You get video, you get audio, you can skip it around. You can skip the ads even if you want. I don't mind if you do that. So let's do more on this. So I think we've covered the 3 points of the watch. And the watch is the 3 points that I see. Correct me if I'm wrong. The FBI probably knew that there was a watch. And then they certainly grabbed things to include a watch in the search warrant. There's video that you guys have uncovered that nobody has ever talked about, because I've never heard anyone mention that this was one of the things. They talked about the shoes a hell of a lot. Yeah. So we'll go there next. But they never talked about a watch. So the pipe bomber who wore the hood on that night clearly had a light up smartwatch. Brian Cole Jr. was never known to own a watch. From your own experience talking to the mother. By the way, I also engaged in a little back and forth with her about this and just asked her, hey, like, what kind of watch did Brian wear? You know, you assume the question because it gives you a much more realistic answer. You say, hey, what kind of thing did this person have? And then they tell you. You assume that they have a cell phone. Oh, was he an Android guy or an iPhone guy? You don't say, did Brian own a cell phone? And they go, no. So I did the tactics that you would normally do if you're trying to elicit a true response. And I said, what kind of watch did he have? And she said, well, he didn't ever wear a watch. And I say, you sure? What about, did he have like a smartwatch or anything? And she was like, no. So this was all over Facebook. And we did this before I think you ever sat down with her. And I didn't tell her why, for whatever it's worth. Yeah. Okay, Brian has no watch. Pipe Bomber clearly has a watch. I've just shown you 2 pictures. And they come from time while Shawnee Kirkoff was a police officer with the Capitol Police. And she clearly has an Apple Watch. Whether she used it or ran around with it on a regular basis, I won't speculate. I don't need to. I could just tell you that a simple search and the puff piece the New York Times did highlighted her wearing a watch. And so does every picture that I've seen across the internet where they circle her face and they do it. It's like, okay, these are just data points. We don't have to take anything from them. There are no
family photos of Brian Cole Jr. wearing a watch.
I think I actually showed that yesterday too. Hold on. I may even still have it up. 1 second here. Such a mess. I probably deleted it off my screen. Yeah. Okay. I took it down. Yeah. We showed the picture yesterday, family photo at a wedding. He's standing there in kind of like a blue shirt and his arms are kind of standing straight and got that kind of awkward stance. Yeah. Let's do shoes. Let's do gait. And let's do.
Wait. So when you and I spoke late last night, we had mentioned that for whatever reason, now the fags had jumped on the Tucker Carlson interview, but they had not touched the watch.
Okay.
Yet.
What do you make of that?
The watch story hit pretty hard. Well, at 4:00 this morning, I saw that one of the fags had in fact weighed in on the watch story, and their claim is that we just made this up. We have made it up.
You made up the story about the watch?
Yes, we have pulled it out of our ass.
How would that work?
That is the current position of the fags, is that we made it up.
But how does that work?
I don't know.
All right, so here's for the follow-up for the fags, the former agents group that's out there keeping an eye on things. There it is. It is clearly made up, and obviously nobody who's watching here is going to think that is an illuminated screen watch face. They would never think that. That's and they probably have tons of experience, you'd imagine, right, of looking at these kind of things. They're seasoned investigators. They would immediately ignore that and know that that's fake. So very good. Let's do shoes. You want to talk shoes?
Yeah.
All right. You've long contended, and I think Julie Kelly, who is your favorite investigative reporter, she mentioned that it's very important that we hone in on the shoes, and that she's an amateur podiatrist, apparently, and that the size of the shoes, Shawnee's the wrong size, something else. What do you think about that? Why did the FBI highlight the shoes and then say that they were totally okay, by the way, in the search warrant, not ever finding the shoes, and they've never had to explain it?
Well, you know how I'm an honorary suspendable? Julie Kelly is an honorary fag. So
You can't do that. My head hurts right now, Steve. You can't be throwing me off. You're not an honorary suspendable. I think you're the real deal. You're the only one of us, as far as I know, that has gone and gotten cuffed by the FBI for your troubles. So you're the real deal. But yeah, she could be an honorary former agent. That sounds right.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Sorry,
caught me off guard.
Yeah, no. The bottom line is that the easiest thing that the FBI had to measure that day, if you have to go out and you have to just do the old style investigative work, we're not talking about all of the technologies that they have today, the electronics that they have, the software, the gait recognition capabilities, all of the things that the FBI has access to and uses on a daily basis in investigations of every type. The one thing that's the easiest thing to do in this entire investigation is to measure Hoodie's shoe size. Okay,
there's some bricks on the ground there, see, and I can go out there with my tape measure. I'll just measure it myself.
That's right.
I can see on the pictures which bricks we're going. We're gonna count bricks now. Like, this is like 1950s Dick Tracy stuff, since we're doing Dick Tracy.
It's easy. And anybody can do it.
Why are you on your knees there, sport? I'm measuring the bricks.
Right.
What kind of man measures bricks? A man who wants to know the size of the shoe.
That's right.
This could be fun.
So here's what you have to do. Okay. So they took pictures of the shoe, right? They know that the shoe was a 2018 model of the Nike Air Max Speed Turf.
Yes.
They know that it was a gray, black, and gold color scheme.
Yes.
And that particular limited edition shoe came out in all manner of sports teams' colors. All right.
Did it really? Do you know that for a fact?
Absolutely. In fact, some of them even call the New York Giants version, because it's got the New York Giants.
Yeah.
So they call them different sports teams.
There was one for the Dolphins, I remember, because that was like the most expensive version,
That's
right?
Correct. There's the Dolphins version.
I went down this rabbit hole with you at one point, or I went down it independently. I got nerdy about it, and I read way more about this shoe than makes any bit of sense. You'd think that somebody would make a phone call from the bureau to Nike.
Right.
This seems like a real easy thing to get. I guarantee you Nike has purchase order records from every team that it would have come out of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Nike knows which teams ordered that shoe for their players, and whether they were using them in athletic competition or not. It's not the point. It would have been their casual wear shoe. If it,
let me lean on some special knowledge. So, Steve, you may know this about my dad, but my dad worked in sports management for a while. He was with the Texas Rangers. He was with the Kansas City Royals. He worked with the NBA Development League for a while. He worked for the Hunt Sports Group, which owned a number of soccer teams, MLS teams. And the way that it works when they sign these contracts is, as soon as they bring somebody on, they go, okay, we're going to sign up with this person, and they're a new player. And then they, if it's Nike, that's the team shoe, then they're going to get with them and here's a bunch of Nike swag. Right. So this is all in your colors, and you can wear it on duty, and you can wear it off duty, and you can wear it on the field and off the field, and we'd love to have it. And if you just happen to get big, then they'll offer them a bigger contract, and they're already used to wearing the shoe, and they're already used to wearing the jersey and the hoodies and all the other stuff. And so giving a bunch of swag, which costs them pennies on the dollar, to buy into an athlete's heart early on when they first get in and they feel like they're big time. It's a thing. It's like, it doesn't have to have anything to do with the sport you're involved in. You can get basketball shoes if you're a soccer player, et cetera, et cetera. But 2018 Nike Air Max Speed Turf in a very specific color. It was honed in on by the FBI's own videos. I probably could play it for somebody if they want. And where did that go?
Well, first of all, and this is an interesting aside, is that they did have a person of interest from Northern Virginia. I think this individual actually owned a gym of some sort, and he had purchase records of this exact shoe, this 2018 Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoe.
Yep.
And they put him in there as a person of interest. They started the open investigation on him. And guess what technology they used to eliminate him from suspicion?
I can't do it. Tell me.
Gait recognition software.
Of course. And that was according to the Washington Post.
Which means they have run gait recognition on Hoodie.
Right.
It's the only way you can make the comparison, right?
Yep, I'm actually trying to pull up the shoe specifically right now. I didn't have it prepped, but I can get it because we got that speed ability. Stand by one, and we'll put it on the screen for people if they've never seen it. Most people probably have seen this thing. This comes directly out of the, I believe, Loudermilk report, if memory serves. I think that's what I'm seeing
There
here.
it is.
So there's the shoe. Do you own that shoe?
I bought 3 different pairs of them.
How do they fit?
Okay. Well, let's start with the fact that I got in the mail the first time. The first pair I bought was a size 10.5. Now I wear a size 10 US men's shoe.
Okay.
The 10.5 is actually very snug on my size 10 foot. And what we learned about them is that they do trend small. They trend snug. Okay. There's because they are an athletic shoe, so they don't want a lot of sliding and slipping inside that shoe.
Checks.
All right. Next thing that we learned about this shoe is that the outsole, depending upon the size of the shoe, can run from anywhere to 1 inch to 1.5 inches longer than the insole. So in other words, when you're taking photographs or trying to measure it from the outside, you have to compensate for the length of the outer length of that shoe that you're measuring on, let's say, the bricks in Rumsey Court behind the RNC. Okay.
What you doing down there on bricks there, sir?
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to know these things about the shoe.
Yeah.
Whereas the Converse, the Chucks that Brian Cole Jr. is wearing in the 2024 traffic stop, those Chucks almost have no difference between the insole and the outsole whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a layer of canvas on the outside.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's literally the difference between there might be 1/4 inch extra length on the outsole.
Okay.
And I've measured that as well. So we purchased 3 pairs of these. The next one that I got in was a size 12. And then the third pair I got in was a size 9.5. I wish I had purchased a size 9. I think size 9 of this shoe is the actual size on Rumsey Court. The 9.5, as we measured it and compared it against the photography, the freeze frame photography of the stroll in Rumsey Court, the 9.5 is just a skosh, as they say, a fraction longer than what I can perceive from the video screenshot.
Did you guys take photos of your shoe on the brick, the actual brick, and then try to do like a superimposing like layer over from the is that kind of what I'm imagining?
Yeah, we've done that. And so we did side by sides. We have and then of course put the other shoe against it. And so and then, look, I posted it on X, so there's nothing to hide here. A few weeks ago, I was back in DC again, and this time I was actually at Capitol Police headquarters, and I was measuring certain things at the security door there at the Capitol Police headquarters so that we could measure Shawnee Kirk's shoe size.
Sure.
Shoe size.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
We got to do all that.
Right.
I mean, our estimation is that Ms. Kirkoff wears between a 9.5, maybe even an 8.5. Again, because we don't have the brand name of the kind of work boot shoe that she wears as a Capitol Police officer.
Yeah.
We don't know because we don't know the brand. We don't know what the outsole measurement is. But if you look at it by way of comparison as a standard, an average, it comes in at about a size 9.
It looked to me like a 5'11", so we could do something. I'm kind of a boot nerd, it turns out. I've owned a lot of boots that are combat / patrol style boots. So
right.
if we can get into that some other time if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I'm happy to be involved. So here's the picture from the article that you guys wrote that was released on May 21st, saying that the shoe seems to rule out Brian Cole Jr. There's more to it than that, but the shoe itself it's pretty visibly different. And I don't know if I can kind of pull that up. Yeah, that's pretty good. Look at that. You guys have a great website. Right. Way to go.
So let's go back. Let's go back to the snugness aspect of these shoes, because as I said to you before, the size 10.5 actually, now that's
is this you?
That's me right there. I'm wearing the 10.5 right there. And I will tell you, if I purchased that shoe, I would purchase the 10.5. It was incredibly comfortable. I actually walked around that day about 2.5, 3 miles around DC that day in that shoe. And that was a very, very, I mean, I'm glad I own it now. I made
Steve, did you have any inkling to drop weapons of mass destruction as you were rolling around in those shoes? Do they have any kind of
the shoe of choice for such individuals? So
that's funny.
But here's the thing: I tried to put on the 9.5.
Yeah,
I couldn't get it. It wasn't that it was too tight, Kyle. I couldn't put it on my foot.
All right, so we got 9.5 right here, which you think might even be bigger than the actual shoe that was used.
Correct.
You've got the 12 here, which is Brian Cole Jr.'s. It's a different color scheme, but it's the same shoe model. Same year?
Same year.
Yeah, that's tough to pull down. And then this is the same color scheme, it looks like. Yep. And so you can go do your own impression of the J6 Bomber whenever you choose, and it is in a 10.5, but you're a size 10 in most shoes.
Correct.
And this, you said, was a snug, comfortable fit. So it stands to reason. Okay, well, let's go. Okay, so that's the shoe that was used. This is the story of it. We've said that Brian Cole Jr.'s shoe was a size 12. You know that how?
I've held his actual shoes in my hands.
Okay.
I've held the shoes that he wore in the 2024 traffic stop.
And what? Okay, so look, here's some of them. I think we're seeing that right here.
That's from the little fender bender that he was involved in. That comes from police body cam. I've held that pair of shoes in my hands.
Okay, and these are obviously, anybody who knows them, these are your standard canvas. What are they called? Chucks.
Yep, Chucks.
Chuck Taylors. And you've held these exact shoes. They're size 12, you said, and this is the actual shoe. Are you measuring it right there?
No, I'm actually measuring that one in a sporting goods store.
That looks like a shoe store. Okay, so this is what they would be, size 12 Chuck Taylor, and that's what he wears. And what shoes does he wear, out of curiosity, since you got to go through his room? They didn't seize that, it sounds like.
What's that?
They didn't seize shoes from his room.
They did not seize any of the shoes from his room. And he has a very small collection of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked and examined every one of them. They are all size 12s.
And what are they?
But that's not the predominant. This is what he wears to work every day.
The Chucks.
He wears the Chucks to work. And that's only because he's not allowed to wear his Crocs to work.
Yeah.
When he gets home every day at 4:00, first thing he does is he strips off the jeans that he wears to work.
Hate that. Yeah.
He puts shorts on. It doesn't matter if it's 500 degrees outside, like it is this week in DC, because I just left there yesterday, or if it's 15 degrees in DC or 0 in DC. He takes the jeans off, he puts shorts on, and his Crocs. The reason he wears Crocs and the reason why his mother started buying him Crocs was because as a young man, he would not wear his other shoes properly. He would put his heel on top of the back and bend it down.
My brothers used to call them. They used to call them shondles. They would cut those out sometimes. They'd cut out the back of the heel because they didn't like them, so they'd turn them into sliders, which is what now they sell, and that's what a Croc essentially is too.
Yeah, and so he was ruining shoes by doing that. So there was no sense in buying him those.
Yeah,
and so they started buying him Crocs. And the other interesting, again, just like his phone, which is completely shattered and battered, he won't replace his Crocs until they just disintegrate.
Yeah, until they're not Crocs anymore.
Until they're plastic.
Until all the dignity has leaked out of the holes on the side. That was something I just read in the chat. That's one of the funniest things I've read. The reason that Crocs have holes is so your dignity can leak out. Or because you're an autistic guy and you don't like constricting things on the back of your heel, which is a real thing that people have these like sort of very specific tastes. And okay, so you've seen them. They're all size 12. He wears not fancy shoes. You'd imagine. So forgive me for the sort of the having been on many FBI search warrants, Mr. Baker, but I would imagine that if you were looking for shoes, which was a big part of this case, in so much as we can see it was a big part of this case, this shoe was actually listed in the report to Congress.
Yeah.
I would imagine you'd be grabbing shoes. Not that you're thrilled about it, but you'd at least take some shoes.
Right.
Because
guess what is not on the inventory list, the seizure list?
Shoes.
There's no pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes.
Now, we'll remind people that going through the charging documents and the subsequent sort of filings that the DOJ has made about Brian Cole Jr., they basically have written off one of the primary pieces of identifying information, which was that this pipe bomber was walking in a very specific set of shoes. In fact, I'm actually going to go dig up the video. And when next time you start talking, I'll go pull the FBI video, because they do a whole segment on this shoe and how specific it is and how it was released in limited numbers. It was like there were tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of end caps that were made, and like pipe is everywhere. And they decided to go with that as the identifying information, but there was like only a few of these shoes made, and they'd have to be in a very specific size range. Meanwhile, they wrote it off by him saying they got ratty and I threw them away. And you've kind of just said he doesn't throw things away.
No.
In fact, he probably would keep the ratty shoes if mom didn't toss them, is my guess.
Yeah.
I might know people like this. I'm just saying.
Right. No, he is such a creature of habit. So he'd get up at 6 o'clock every morning. He would walk his dog. Always walked to the 7-Eleven, where he would, in the morning, would buy his pizza and 2 Coca-Colas. And it's actually a pretty fair hike from his house. And this was a routine. And again, didn't matter how cold it was, he always wore shorts. Now, she showed me the big jacket he would put on when it was cold, but otherwise he was always wearing shorts and Crocs. That's how he walked around the neighborhood. And that's how eyewitnesses, neighbors, including an individual that you and I both know, have seen him over 10 years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, multiple times a day, walking his dog in Crocs and shorts. And after you see somebody hundreds of times walk, you I hate to use that word again, but you learn what their gait is.
I hate it when you use the word gait.
The fags actually go into,
convulsions.
Yeah, that
little conniption fit. All right. Let me remind people, if you're watching over on Rumble, make sure you guys are giving us a like. We'd appreciate that. Same thing on YouTube. Subscribe to the channels. You may hear an ad on the audio and potentially even on the YouTube channel right now. Just like to leave that, let you guys know what's coming in. Steve, I'm going to give you a breather for a second here. I'm going to play the FBI video that I referenced previously, and I think I've got it queued up here. I'll have to double check the audio. Let's watch. I just want to hone in on the FBI did not release a lot about this person, and the shoe was a big chunk of it. They cared about it every time. This was, I think, the most recent release they did before they did the arrest.
On January 5th, 2021, between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m., an unidentified individual placed pipe bombs near the offices of the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee in Washington, D.C. The FBI and our partners are renewing our call for tips from the public to help us identify the suspect. A reward of up to $500,000 is available for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the individual responsible for this attempted attack. If you have any information, please call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can also submit tips online at tips.fbi.gov. The FBI's estimate is the suspect's height is approximately 5'7" tall. The suspect wore a face mask, a gray hooded sweatshirt, and black gloves. They used a backpack to transport each of the devices. They were wearing distinctive Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes, which are black and gray with the yellow Nike logo. Fewer than 25,000 of these shoes were sold between August 2018 and January 2021. The first time the suspect is seen is at approximately 7:34 p.m. at the intersection of 1st Street and North Carolina Avenue Southeast. The person walks southwest on North Carolina Avenue, turns north on New Jersey Avenue, west on D Street.
This is very exciting stuff, guys, I know.
And then south on South Capitol Street. This footage of the suspect on South Capitol Street shows the person setting down their backpack, which is believed to contain one of the bombs at this time. The suspect appears to put on a pair of glasses and scan the area, standing on tiptoes.
The one thing that you all will notice in this music,
before picking up the backpack,
footage,
turning around, and heading back the way they came on South Capitol Street.
The thing that I find most compelling about that is the subject is on tiptoes and walking athletically.
Yes.
Which is the exact opposite of everything that anyone has ever described Brian Cole Jr. You've seen him in one of the court hearings that he was brought in. Can you talk about what his gait, God forbid, looked like?
Well, between what I visualized with my own eyes in the courtroom, and then, of course, what we've seen through 48 minutes of the body cam there at the Woodbridge Police Department's body cam during that traffic fender bender investigation, and then, of course, multiple testimonies from the 7-Eleven store owner to neighbors to family. It's just not him, and I will tell you this. The one thing that is very athletic is that walk around the corner. And by the way, when Hoodie is making that right-hand turn around the corner of that building in Rumsey Court Alley, I don't remember if that was in this particular video or not, because I stepped away from the screen for a moment. But this particular person is in a very unique athletic move at the time, something that, I mean, look, God bless Brian Cole Jr. One thing he is not is an athlete.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep. You guys are seeing right now, this is the suspicion that Armitage has that these glasses were being used, that they were potentially sunglasses. You want to make the argument for why this footage that we just showed right here might be sunglasses? Do you remember the discussion?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, this person was engaged in the activity of not being identified. And one of the best things to do is to wear dark glasses. It's not complicated.
So what we saw there, just for people, if you were just listening and you're like, what the heck are you guys talking about? The hoodied figure, the pipe bomb figure, walks up, puts a backpack down as described by the FBI music and the ominous thing, takes a pair of glasses off, it seems like, to clean them, then puts them back on as the person walks by, and then kind of takes them off and then finishes cleaning them. And as you and I both know, I was a glasses wearer for many years of my life before I had surgery. And if you get smudgy glasses and you take them off, the thing that you want is non-smudgy so you can see somebody approaching you in the dark. And that is not what this person is worried about. This person is not worried about identifying human being walking with dog. They're worried about making sure the glasses are on when the person walks by and then takes them off and continues the cleaning. So the argument being made is it's a logical inference, is that these would be used more for hiding identity and not for identification of potential threat walking on the street. And you might not think that somebody is a potential threat walking on the street if you're, say, I don't know, somebody who's armed in Washington, D.C., which is not many people, or somebody who's doing some sort of mission where you have, that what you're supposed to be doing is there. I also didn't see like nerves in any of the videos that I've seen. I've never seen any indication that the pipe bomber was unclear, was, had any sort of anxiety about being caught or found or anything else. And we've seen, people walking up, like if you walked up, Steve, to a bush in Washington, D.C. in the dark and sat down, that would be really weird. And people might go, hey, guy over there with the CIA hat, what causes you to sit at such a bush? There might be questions for you that you'd have to answer in some stilted English language. And you'd have to say, oh, worry not. I'm involved in work things, like, I don't know. I just don't know what would cause you to not be concerned, like looking over the shoulder, like, they're going to notice me doing weird shit under this bush.
I worketh there upon the bush. I've made this point for a long time, is that in all of my, hundreds of hours review of the hoodied bomber, is the one thing that is most distinctive and characteristic about the bomber is no fear, no anxiety. A person who is worried about being caught committing a crime is going to have body language that reeks of that.
Yes.
This is a person who is absolutely assured that he or she is doing nothing wrong.
Yep.
And is taken care of, has nothing to fear at all. Even if caught, there's no fear.
That's the big piece. So we used to call that guilty knowledge. And guilty knowledge is the thing that you have that no one else has about the thing that you're doing. Like, there's nothing crazy about walking up to a bush and looking underneath it, and anybody could do it. But the person who does it, that knows that they're doing it for some nefarious purpose, they can't help but know that it's really weird to walk up to a bush with with the intention of putting a pipe bomb under it. But if you walked up to a bush, or let's make it more innocuous, Steve. If you're a person who's had too many Coca-Colas, and it is a late night and you are walking home and you're not going to make it back to your Airbnb or your hotel room or your car, and you see that inviting bush, which is just off the beaten path, you're going to go take a little pee break there, and you're still going to look over your shoulder, because if somebody catches you peeing in the bush, you have guilty knowledge of why you're standing there, even though there's a totally innocuous reason. You're like, what are you doing over by the bush? It's like, oh, I thought I dropped my phone here earlier.
Yeah.
That would be, you wouldn't be worried about that. If you were looking for your phone, people would go, oh, that person, what are you doing with the bush? And you're like, oh, I dropped my phone. And they're like, oh, okay. But if you're peeing, you know that you're peeing. Nobody else knows you're peeing, but you can't not know that. And your body will betray you. And I 100% agree with you. Guilty knowledge it manifests itself in posture.
I'll tell you a funny story, and this is a confession right now. A few months ago, I had to do a live podcast with Steve Day's show, and of course I think they had me. His show airs from noon to 2:00 Eastern, and he had me coming on at like 12:30, and I was on my way to DC at the time, and I was in about a half hour before. I still don't even have a location yet where I'm going to set up, and I have my tripod, and so I was at the Quantico exit. So I took the Quantico exit. I looked on the map for a park to go set up in a park somewhere, and it was the Quantico National Cemetery.
Yep.
So I went and set up in the cemetery, and it was a great backdrop. I had, all the graves on the hill and everything against the backdrop. Well, once I'm set up and ready, and because of these meds that I have for my heart, condition thing, I have to go, and I have to take a leak rather frequently.
As you stood in nature, nature began to call.
That's right. And so twice while I'm waiting for the producer to, bring me on the air, I had to go. And this is a massive complex. If you've ever been there, it's tens of thousands of graves. It's, hills and different sections. And so twice I looked around and let her rip.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the cemetery.
Everybody who's been in the military understands that need. Everybody who's ever had diarrhea behind a bush or out in the open in a hole somewhere, they get it. They don't begrudge you that moment.
Right.
Okay. What are we looking at here? This is a graphic from your most recent post, I believe. This is from your most recent story.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, we are going back to and addressing the issue of Brian Cole's Gait, and that Brian Cole cannot be the person in the gray hoodie. Look,
you said it on Tucker in a very unique way. You said his body is his alibi, which I believe comes from Armitage.
Armitage says that. Yeah, that's I've stolen that phrase from him and used it many times.
Good.
His Brian Cole Jr.'s body is exculpatory in its own right. He should not be sitting in he should not be sitting in jail right now because of the way his body is. Period. His feet are too big. His legs are too short. His torso is too long. His neck is too long. His eyes are different than the hoodied bomber. The hoodied bomber can hold the phone in the lap at least 2 full feet away from the bomber's eyes, and Brian holds his phone right here. His mother says he's blind as a bat. In fact, his mother, while I was there at the house, went and got for me his most recent prescription. It's 5 pages long. My prescription, and I wear trifocals or progressives. My prescription is this long. It's this long.
Right.
His is 5 pages long. He has severe eye problems. It's why even with the thick glasses on, he holds his phone right here when he's on the phone. He's not the bomber. He can't be the bomber. Now, to the images you have here, very simple. Watching these videos back and forth, we've been able to use this particular software right here. We can show that he walks in more of a duck duck waddle. Both feet are angled out.
Okay.
And the hoodied bomber, left foot this way, right foot comes over in what they call a circumduction move.
Okay.
Pigeon
If you're not
toe.
seeing right now, the right toe points in towards the left foot. It pigeon toes in, as they call it.
Pigeon toes in, and
But
then,
it starts from a sort of neutral position and then pigeon toes in as it kind of walks. So it does this sort of like looping half circle crescent movement.
and very frequently crosses over. Here we go. You've got it queued up.
I did this.
No, it's not the fat person on the right.
That is a big lady. That's a lady. Ooh, that's a big girl.
Look,
But that is such a distinct kind of, yeah, anyone who says that's not a limp of some kind is crazy. So what we're seeing on the screen right now is a video from January 6th, I believe, with a gas mask in hand. This is Shawnee Kirkoff. She's carrying her paintball gun, the less than lethal munitions, projector. And you're watching that right leg, and there's a favoring of one side that kind of looks like even.
Look, you see how it crosses over in front.
Yeah,
of
so what you'll see is the right leg goes directly in front of the left toes, which is not the way most people do that sort of crossover walk. If you've ever seen the way that people walk, by the way, folks, and we'll leave this, I think that's the end of the video. If you've ever seen the way people walk, go look at any set of footprints in the beach. And people have decidedly different ways that their feet land. And some people have practiced to get them so that they're almost directly in line with their shoulders, with their toes pointed forward. I do a lot to try to do that because it keeps me from injuring myself. And then there are people that are, outward. There are people that are really deep heel strikers. There are people that are running on toes as they walk versus run. You can see the transition where the weight hits. Like your gait tells a lot about what your body's been through and what kind of body is above it. It tells you a ton.
And then, Kyle, there are the sand walkers who don't want to attract the worms.
Yes, you have to do a different kind of. That was a
Garrett.
Dune reference. That was just for Garrett, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
He loves that so much. If you guys are Dune nerds, if you don't know that, that's one of Steve Baker's. It's one of his deep flaws that randomly he will text back and forth with me and Garrett O'Boyle and share Dune memes or Dune gifs or whatever they're called. And they're like really deep into it, where it's really specific to the point where you had to have been like a real big Dune person to get it. Like if you just watched the movie once and you're like,
yeah, these are references not found in the movies.
That being said, I do know what you're talking about. So this reminds me of that moment. It was like, I'm just nerdy enough to know. Yeah,
Can we go back to the video for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
One of the things that I was looking forward to with you today was to be able to answer some of the naysayers, particularly the fags. And one of the things that the fags say here is that she's walking this way because of the heavy gear she's wearing on her left hip. Do you know what is on her left hip right there?
That looks like the gas mask bag. It's empty because the gas mask is in her right hand.
Yes,
yeah, I know.
Thank you, Kyle.
It turns out I actually did this.
Ding, you win.
You know what, Steve? Hold on. Let me just while you're still talking on that, let me grab something off my wall that nobody knows is back here.
Yes.
Okay. Let me put my ears back on. I may or may not be able to show you, even if it was full of what it could be. This is a gas mask, and I can carry it with a finger, and I can do finger curls with it because it doesn't weigh anything, even if it's in there. And this is with canister.
Yes.
So lest anybody think otherwise, gas masks are meant to be worn on your face, which is not a load-bearing place, so they don't weigh very much. It's a little bit of rubber. It's a little bit of this is almost probably exactly the same type of gas mask she has. I may or may not kind of buy things to be federal equivalent or mil-spec equivalent. So this is very similar. This is a good mask too, by the way. This is a Draeger. So it's not heavy. And if you buy professional equipment, it can't be heavy. And anybody who's ever run with a gas mask, it's awkward. It's awkward to run with them. I won't make up otherwise. But it's not heavy. It maybe weighs 1.5 pounds tops, and that's assumed. And it counterweights because your gun's on the other side.
It's not only is it not heavy, it's not in the bag.
Right. You can see it's in her hand. Here, I'll go back to it real quick here, folks. If you can see, like, right hand has there's a slung paintball gun. Right hand has the mask, and you can see it moving right there, and there it goes really prominently. And the empty bag is on the left-hand side. So you wear the gear, which could include medical. It could include, your gas mask and some other stuff on a drop leg on the opposite side of your weapon, so you don't interrupt your draw. But yeah, that's what's on the screen right there. It's very obvious to me.
So let's go back and we'll throw out our necessary legal disclaimers. And this is the bottom line for me: is Shawnee Kirkoff the bomber? I have forensic reasons to believe that she's a match.
Yeah.
Between 94 and 98%, not only from technology, but also experts in the field of doing this, eyeballing it. And those are not my numbers. And to again address the fags, this is not something we pulled out of our ass. I had no reason to do that. There's no animosity. There's no malice towards Ms. Kirkoff whatsoever. But in terms of what we just looked at in that video right there, we have captured the bomber walking in the exact same manner. Right leg circumduction, right foot crosses over the left foot.
I think we have some video, and I don't know if I'm going to put this on the screen as you talk. I'm not sure if it actually shows the exact same thing. I was looking for the turn, which actually, you know what? No. We do have the turn, don't we? Yeah. We've got that. We've got it as part of this. This is right here. Is there not the turn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
that's the video turn.
So let me take this to Vimeo real quick, and so we'll go. Yeah, view on Vimeo. That's what I want to do. Look at this, Steve Baker in the moment. We'll play your video. Oh, there's audio. I'm going to kill the audio from my end. So this is going to be the video. Feel free to talk through it. That's Steve Baker.
Yeah, you can scroll past me.
I'm going to scroll through until we get to it. That's nice. Okay, so this is the famous shot. There's obviously video that goes along with it. How far should we go to get to the... Oh, look, there's a picture of Brian Cole. You guys got everything on here. There's Brian, no watch.
No watch.
Very specific proportions. That's my picture, I think, too. That's my arrow I drew. How about that? Let's scan ahead and see if we can get to... Yeah, folks, this will be linked in the show description as well if you guys want to watch a 10-minute video of Steve walking. Here, look at this. So here's the bomber. That's good. This is the circumflexion you're talking about. It's very unnatural to take the outside foot and have it cross over the top of the inside foot.
It's extremely unnatural to be making a right-hand turn. Okay, now
you're going to do it.
If I'm making a left-hand turn and I cross my right foot over my left foot in a right-hand turn, that's not an abnormal move.
In other words, you're cutting the radius with that foot, so that makes sense.
But if I'm making a right-hand turn and crossing my right foot over the left, I better have something to hang on to because I'm going to fall down.
Are you going to fall down for me in this video? I realize I haven't seen this.
The only reason I don't fall down is because I practiced this move so many times.
Okay, here we go. Here's Steve Baker. Did you just do it and I missed it? Okay, here we go. So, oh, that is awkward. Look at your ankles roll. And by the way, her ankles roll that way.
And I'm having to do it at, a quarter speed because if I do it at full speed, I'm going to fall down. And okay, I'll pick it up. Now I'm trying to, I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating there to get now, this is the other interesting aspect of this particular story right here.
Oh, this is good. I haven't seen this angle. I should have watched this. Very interesting. All right, so here's the crossover step.
That's a little more
natural,
less awkward.
Yeah,
less exaggerated.
They got you going backwards, Steve. They're really putting it to you. This is before the heart thing or after? This is a month ago.
This is recently.
Look at you. You're almost back. They didn't kill you.
I'm working it. Now, if we go back to this, and you can just kind of freeze it right here.
Where do you want me to freeze?
Let's go back to the me moving forward. Right there. Just freeze it right there. Okay.
Well, you'd think I could do that, but it doesn't want me to do that. All right, I'll get it. Keep talking.
All right, that's a good spot. It's a good spot. Now, I've actually recreated the scene here, even with the blue trash can in the exact position of when the hooded bomber, that night 5.5 years ago, walked past that. We've recreated everything here for this video moment. Well, if you go straight to the left of my left shoulder, and 50 yards, not 50 yards, about 50 feet to my left there.
Up here, up in the corner.
Is the actual guard shack behind the Republican National Committee headquarters. Okay. The guard shack is right there. This is the fastest, most athletic moment of the hooded bomber's entire 45-minute stroll that night because the bomber knew they had to get past the guard shack unnoticed. Now, how did they get past the guard shack and the guard shack didn't see anyway? Because the guard and the desk and the computer screen of for the shack is faced away from here, so it's faced down the alley the other direction.
So all you got to do is you basically limit what we call your time of exposure.
Correct.
And that means just a smooth move around the corner, and you're not going to be there for long enough for anybody to look over his shoulder and catch you.
So Hoodie speeds up there.
Okay.
At the fastest pace of the entire stroll all night long, and yet he's still crossing in a right-hand turn right over left foot.
How obvious?
99.5% of all people will fall down if they do that.
How obvious is the guard shack if you're walking there in the dark and you didn't know it was there beforehand? Is it like
it's obvious
I'm
when
a
you
guard
get
shack?
because you see the guard inside of it. But if from 50 feet in the dark, and it's pretty well lit in the alley anyway. It's not pitch dark in that alley. It's well lit.
Okay.
And so it's very, very apparent that whoever this person was or is knew the location not only of that guard shack, but then just moments later after dropping that device knew exactly where the hidden gate was. These are things that are not, and by the way, the guard shack you would not know that it was a guard shack from Google Maps. You would not know about the hidden gate from Google Maps.
Let's do that. Let me see if I can pull it up here, because that's always fun.
But that's and I'll talk over that while you're doing that.
Yep.
And this again is what they claim that Brian Cole makes, or the statement, an assertion he makes in his confession,
right,
is that he mapped out the route for the bomb placements at the RNC in DC and learned the route from Google Maps. So that's okay, great. Well, there's three things that Brian Cole Jr. is not going to get from Google Maps. He's not going to get the location of the guard shack. Not unless he's pre-scouted that, but he gave no indication that he had pre-scouted.
Are we going to DNC or RNC? This is RNC.
We go to RNC.
Okay.
There we go.
And I'm going to do the overlay layer, so we get this.
There we go.
This is my favorite thing to do with you, by the way. Do you know that? Is that funny?
Yeah, this is something that the fags have never done.
All right, so let's do this. You're going to do the Google. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a drop. This is roughly where we think the parking happened. Is that correct? On D Street?
Over in Folger Park. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's Folger Park.
Yep.
So this is D Street.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I wanted to do directions. Right? Can I do directions? Oh, I got to open up my window. And I want to do directions from that spot. And where do I want to go? I want to go to...
You've got to go to the DNC first.
DNC. So I want to do it walking. And it's going to give me some walking routes and some alternative routes. And they include going down D Street.
Yep.
Okay. So those are things. Which one of these routes was this actually taken?
Lower route.
The lower route. Okay. So this is the route. And then I want to go from DNC to RNC.
Yep.
Actually, I want to go back to Folger Park, don't I?
You want to go back? And the lower route was taken back to Folger Park.
Okay, so here's the route. This is the one you would get. Okay, then you're here again, right? And then we're going to go to the RNC.
Correct.
Am I wrong about that?
No, and you'd go straight across, right in front of the RNC. So you go straight across.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, how did you figure out how to get to the RNC from the place you parked over on D Street and 2nd Street Southeast? I used Google Maps. Google Maps gives you an answer. It doesn't even give you an alternative.
Okay. Now zoom in as close as you can to the RNC.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay, now we're maxed to zoom.
Okay, now
I'm gonna close this window.
The brown building is the rooftop of the RNC.
Right here.
Now take your cursor to the little white out structure, straight from where your cursor is right now. Where your cursor is,
this one?
Right there.
Okay.
That's the guard shack.
Yeah, that looks like an HVAC unit to me.
That's correct. Now, do you see any indications from Google that that's a guard shack?
No, it looks like there's an HVAC maybe on top of it, but you'd have no idea what that is.
Right. All right. Now, drag the screen down a little bit. Now, okay. So you see where the van is?
Mm-hmm.
Drag your cursor right over to the right. Right there. Oh, go back.
Yep.
Up.
Oh, this is the turn.
There, that's the corner. That's the corner that I was demonstrating the move, the walk.
Right here.
That's the corner right there.
Okay.
Now you see the tree at the very
I'm going to put it right in the middle
of your screen.
The tree over here.
No, go back to the corner.
Sorry, this one.
up to your left and the large tree.
This guy.
Okay, up against that wall and move over right there. Oh, right there. That's where the bomb was placed. Right.
Oh, that's a weird
where your
place.
cursor is.
Because here's the Capitol Hill Club.
That's correct.
Okay, and so this little thing where these vehicles are is where the bomb is placed.
There's a gate right there.
Right here.
Yeah. Yep, that's a gate.
Yeah, look at that gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't tell anything from this picture.
right, and that's not even the secret gate.
So hold on, let's see what we can do for dropping in a visibility. Can we drop? Nope, there's no footage. So sometimes you guys know that if you go and you drag the little man, you guys have done Google before, you can get inside the Capitol Hill Club. That's helpful.
Yeah.
But there's no visibility in this space. There's no walking space. Is there walking space here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what we can see.
Right.
Can I go down further?
Yeah.
Nope.
Maybe.
Nope, that's it. This is as much as it is. And there's the guard shack, it looks like.
Okay. Now go around to the front of the Capitol Hill Club.
Okay. Around to this side?
Yep. You got to take a right there.
Did that just do that? I have no idea what we just did.
No.
I hate it when they do that. Hold on, we'll get it. So we're going to go here, and I want to go to the front.
Yep. Right there.
This is more fun. Folks, if you're missing out, check us out on Spotify. You can see what's going on. Is this Capitol Hill?
That is the RNC.
Yep.
And to the left of, okay, that's the RNC. And now move over a little bit and you'll see the green awning. Keep going. Keep going.
There it is.
Right there. Right where you have, there we go. See the Capitol Hill Club.
Oops, sorry. There we go. I'm blowing your minds, folks. There we go. Now
there we go. And
There's
that's
Lindsey.
where,
Is that
that's
Lindsey
where
Graham?
Hoodie famously and apparently and maybe waved at a cop car right
here.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
And the bomb was placed right behind that building, which is the Capitol Hill Club, not the actual. Now, if you go between the Capitol Hill Club and the RNC, there's right there where your cursor is.
Yep.
There is a walkway alley. Now, it's not big enough for an automobile, but there's a walkway alley right there.
Can you see it from here?
Yes.
And there it is. Right? Is that it? Because there's okay, so here's your RNC, folks, on the right-hand side of this. Here's your your Capitol Hill Club. And then right there where this valet looks like they're doing something, that's your space. I wonder if you can see into it. Nope. Sometimes you can click through and you can get some stuff in there, but you cannot in this case. So again, the visibility from Google is very, very low. And that's all I'm trying to prove to you guys.
We can't get a street view inside the alley, but let's go back to this overview right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so you see where the guard shack is, you see where the corner is, where the Hoodie makes the most athletic and high-speed turn of the stroll all night long. And that's what the Hoodie was doing, was endeavoring to get past that, as you said, to take away any opportunity for the guard to see him or her.
Yeah, exposure is low.
Going to the bomb drop site, which I already showed you, which is just right up there right there.
I'm tracking. Okay.
Okay.
Now where do we go?
Now go back to Rumsey Court alleyway at the turn. Now just follow the court all the way. Keep going. Just keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
We've done this before, folks. So if you've seen this,
now you got to go around a wall right here, drop down a little bit to the darker pavement, and then you come up where these other. Now keep going. Keep going. Now you're going to see the garden in the top right hand corner right now is the fence, or is the garden to the Catholic Church.
The church is which side? This side?
That's the church, and then right between the alleyway and the garden,
there's
all
this
the way
path
up against the church, all the way up against the church, that dark, it's shadowed right there, is a secret gate. The
right
FBI
here
themselves admit that it is a hidden gate.
Yeah.
If you don't, first of all, you can't see, you don't even really know that it's a gate from the map, except, from the shadow or something.
Imagine that this is where you park your car and they give you this walking route. There's no way that you're walking through here and saying, I wonder if I can jump through this fence line here.
That's correct. Can I disappear where there are no cameras? Now, my camera has captured that entire area. I've walked through the gate a couple of times. I've videoed my trek through that gate. But that hidden gate can't be seen. In fact, you can't see the latch. The gate itself is engineered architecturally to completely blend in. If you're not a resident, you don't know it exists.
I got so sucked into that map, Steve. I used to do map recon for a living, as you probably know. I used to do surveillance and look at overheads and then translate this to people who are in the air. explain what they were looking at from rooftops and so on, and be able to talk people onto a specific car and whatever else and give relative positions. And anyway, I spent a lot of time. I get sucked into maps like that. And I just did for a second. I was like, oh, I'm not in Washington, D.C. I got to pull myself out. I can visualize a lot of this stuff. I can't visualize that is necessarily a gate, and nor would I guess that. And that wouldn't be, there's a little indication, maybe like a shadow line here that might tell you that.
Shadow line is all that gives it away.
I'm not walking there out of hand if I have an alternative route and the route is direct, and that's what it is. So anyway, as someone who did map recon for a living and scouted routes and used to watch people and surveillance and, identify possible ingress and egress routes and recommend them to our SWAT guys that were doing search warrants so they could be, mostly hidden for most of the time, I'd never pick that up. No chance. I know Brian Cole Jr. didn't either, because he's a 25-year-old kid who had no experience in that.
Exactly.
Even if he's a nerdy autistic guy, he's still not picking that up.
And again, if Brian Cole was telling the truth, which of course he was coerced into this confession,
right?
And when he relented and gave them what they wanted to hear, he confessed that he learned his route from Google Maps. Well, here we are, folks.
That's your Google Maps.
Google Maps.
So that's a real easy debunk, right? Because we just looked for it.
He would not know where the guard shack is from Google Maps. He would not know where the secret gate is at the end of the Rumsey Court from Google Maps into the church garden. And the third and most important thing is he would not know where the blind spots are in Capitol CCTV cameras.
100% all of that. All right. I'm going to remind people to like the stream. So if you guys are watching, give us a like. Appreciate that. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms and on YouTube right now. Just leaving myself a little blank. I want to do the final thing, and I actually teased it out, and I'm sorry, I should have gotten to it earlier, but this is how it gets when first, I got sucked into the map, and second, I just like talking to Steve, and it's making my headache go away. So, Mr. Baker, you had a lot of this information. You gained a bunch more of it. You've presented it to members of the intelligence community. You presented it to people who are in federal law enforcement. How did they receive the things that you said? What were their reactions? And do you have any things you want to talk about that you kind of alluded to the other day? And I know you kind of teased it out in front of a forum of live people, and there was a very lightly viewed video of it. So we can talk about Mr. Osborne if you're up to it.
Yeah, let me just answer that first part of the question by saying this, that I have taken much of this evidence to members of law enforcement, current, former, retired, whistleblowing members of virtually every agency. FBI, CIA, ODNI, Defense Intelligence, Air Marshals, all
right.
Secret Service, all manner of organizations, agencies, bureaus within the federal structure. And give me 15 minutes and I will flip you from whatever your current preconceptions are about this case. You'll see it. And which is why I always ask the fags, who are you working for?
Right?
Every time. And why are they obsessed with this? Why do they spend so much time monitoring every word I say? They watch every podcast. They're watching you and I right now.
100%.
They're making their notes, and they will show up in the comment sections, and they will begin dropping their bullshit there.
Okay, and I want to address probably the most likely. Let's go with the least nefarious version of this, because we do, guys, if you're not aware, there are former agents that are on social media and they seem utterly tuned in to try to debunk something that in reality, their answer should be, we want to know what the truth is, because they have an inquisitive mind. They're an investigator at heart, one would hope. And they should also acknowledge that their agency, the FBI, if you don't acknowledge as an FBI agent that the FBI has done some really fucked up things in all of its history, and you can't acknowledge that, there's something very wrong with your mind. You are not a competent person to talk about it. If you can't, I was taught about COINTELPRO when I was in the academy. They make a penance trip for every single person that becomes an FBI agent. You have to go to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial for a day and wander around with a bunch of 8th graders. It's a bunch of grown-ups who are getting a federal job to be investigators and a bunch of kids who are on a field trip from 8th grade to go read the stuff on the wall. And they do that specifically because the FBI was deeply involved in discrediting the civil rights movement. They were involved in stuff that went way after that. They continued to do it in the 90s. They were going after what's called PatCon. So they were doing the Patriot movement at that time, the militia type guys. They were going after so-called white supremacists, many of whom just wanted to be left alone and be living in isolation. They may have been a-holes, but they're allowed to. There's a bunch of wild stuff when you start saying that my agency's never done anything wrong or that it is above reproach because it was the FBI. It only tells me one thing. You either are completely ignorant of history, in which case, how detestable. The other thing is that you know that your reputation is inextricably linked to the place that you used to work at, and you can't separate yourself from the place you used to be. So you don't need to be on the job to do what, let's say, what was that guy's name? James Baker. He went from the FBI general counsel and he went over to Twitter and he still wanted to help the FBI out. He didn't have to be on the FBI's payroll to know that, like, he was still buddies with the people at the FBI. If that's your jam and all you do is run interference and you defend agencies, if you don't look at government and say, gosh, darn it, I'm a citizen now, and this agency could come for me, then you are so without any ability to self-reflect. I'm sad for you. And if you think that that agency will not come for you the minute it's convenient under another administration because it'll do what's good for the agency, then you live in the same world that a lot of these people that I saw as they were getting ready to retire, they couldn't fathom the agency going on without them. But guess what? Every single person who's retired from every federal agency, the agency forgot about them immediately. Didn't give a shit about you right then. The day you walked out the door, it was like, yeah, you're KMA, what we call kiss my ass. That means you're ready to retire. You may be KMA. We don't even remember. What have you done for me lately? And lately was the last 24 hours. You don't even exist anymore. And anybody who's ever been run out of one of these agencies knows it. If you've been a whistleblower and you've been isolated, you know 100% what this is like. They stop calling you. Your friends you've known for 12 years won't even pick up the phone. Your buddy that you went to the academy with says, look, man, I don't want to get involved in this. I just want to remember that we were friends one time back in the day and forget about you today. I've literally had that conversation and it's very uncomfortable. So if you've never had that and your job is to suck up to the agency you used to work at, like you're a real problem. You're the reason why the Society of Ex-FBI Agents is out there cheering on government surveillance. You're like, we know how important the mission is. It's like, you know what? F you, dude. Go F yourself. You're out of your freaking mind. They will spy on you in a heartbeat and you know it because you've been part of it. You've been part of an agency and seen them do it. That being said, in my righteous frustration with people who I think are very dishonest, and if they were honest in good faith and they were like, okay, look, the government should not get the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt should go to the person who's alleged to have done something and is innocent until proven guilty. They didn't do the investigation. So blindly relying on government investigations makes me uncomfortable. It's why I don't weigh in on the Tyler Robinson thing yet. I haven't done the investigation. I don't need to have a perspective on it. It's not important to me yet. I'll evaluate the case when it's presented. This case has been presented in a big way by the federal government, specifically my old agency. And I know they're lying. And so do you. And we've talked to people inside the FBI that said it as much. So you've shared your information, Steve, with federal agents. You've talked to a bunch of people. You've convinced a lot of others. Who took on this case to investigate? And let's talk about the consequences, since that was part of the that's part of the tease, I guess, in the title of today's show.
Yeah. Look, so we've known about this for a long time, and I gave this to Tucker Carlson as an exclusive, and we rolled it out simultaneously, basically, with Tucker and at the Feds for Freedom event in D.C. that I was speaking at on Wednesday. And this is the first time that this has been discussed in any format by anybody, anywhere, any place, any time. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I am not drawing absolute conclusions from what we know about this, but everything about this, you know, if you want to create a conspiracy theory, the government is doing everything in its power right now to make this a conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. They are, by not being transparent about the death of a Homeland Security special agent. Okay, now, my heart failure event was the Sunday before Christmas, this last year. 2 days before that, on Friday, that morning, I get a message from a very, very long time, 3-decade-long member of the intelligence community. He says, we have to meet right now. I said, okay, where? He picked a spot, Falls Church, Virginia. I drove out there, and we sat down at the table. First thing he did is he grabbed my phone from me, put my phone away, and put it in his Faraday briefcase. All right. And then he took a business card and he slid the business card across the table at the little diner that we were at. And he said, do you know who this is? Without saying his name out loud. And I said, yes, of course I know who it is. He said, well, we have just been informed that he's no longer with us. He has died. He's been killed by some manner. The rumor is that it is the rumor that's being circulated through the intelligence community is that he was killed by his own hand, suicide. He, with tears coming down his cheek, long-term friend of this 19-year veteran of Homeland Security investigations, he said, not a chance. Nobody believes that. Nobody that knows him, there's no chance. And then he rattled off a whole bunch of reasons why this guy had so much to live for. Brand new girlfriend. They were just planning on how they were going to spend Thanksgiving together. The girlfriend found his body in his condo the day before Thanksgiving. He had just remodeled his condo, spent a lot of money put into that, all kinds of things. And he's 19 years, he's got his 19 years in. You know what that means?
He's right at the edge.
Right. He's coming up on his
retirement eligibility.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to cash in on that thing and do what he wants to, and have a security blanket as he pursues his second half of his life dreams, and goals. And so, which may be to remain in the IC, you never know. Maybe that's, some people do that. But the point being is that he had everything to live for and does not have the personality or the character traits of somebody that's going to commit suicide. And as a matter of fact, and you know this, Kyle, even people that you're shocked by a suicide, when you interview family members and the closest friends, sometimes they'll whisper to you at the memorial or the celebration of life service or whatever. I go, if you really knew him, if there's you can kind of understand.
There's always a demon you didn't know was there. Somebody
right.
knew that there was a demon.
Except that there's nobody in his life saying that.
Right. And I've been, I've had that discussion. I met people, I didn't ever see it. I had no idea. You go home, so for example, great example. My gun dealer in New Mexico, his wife committed suicide. And when I went to sit with him, I'd met his wife a dozen times. I was at their house all the time, every week or two. And she was glowing, lovely, enthusiastic, excited about new guns. She was just a cool, neat lady. And then when I went there and I was like, oh my God, where did this come from? And he was like, she's been wrestling with this demon forever. Mm-hmm. Like she's had it for decades. And I've just always tried to help her get through it. And it's like, somebody knows if you're dealing with that, unless they don't.
So this particular individual,
do you want to name him?
Yeah. So we tape, just so everybody knows, because this was a question that's been asked in the comment sections since Wednesday, is that I didn't name him on the Tucker show. Tucker and I discussed this in advance. Tucker had two different sources himself who had already briefed him on this mysterious death of this agent, and he asked me himself if I was willing to talk about it. And I said, yes, of course. And then we discussed, do we want to mention the name? And we came to the conclusion, let's hold it back. All right. Fast forward exactly 2 weeks later. Now I'm in DC, which was this Wednesday, from the taping on the Tucker show. It's 2 weeks following on the air date of the episode, the Tucker Carlson show's air date of my interview. And they at Feds for Freedom wanted me to cover this, and they wanted me to name the name.
And some of these people actually had some overlap, I think, with
there's relationships there. They want this to go public because of the mystery and the unanswered questions and the fact that everyone in the food chain, whether it's the IC food chain or the law enforcement food chain, are covering this up and won't answer questions. We have FOIA'd the medical examiner report. The medical examiner report has never yet been released. There's never been a public obituary. There's never been an announcement of this of any type. When I learned about this, and when my friend and my source from the IC slid Mark Osborne's business card across that diner's table and said, "Do you know who this is?" I said, "Yes, of course I know who it is." And the reason why I knew who this was, Kyle, is because this is the guy that had been brought in to investigate my findings on Shawnee Kirkoff.
So I've got his LinkedIn up. I don't know if you know that was up there, but it's I went and pulled this, and I just want to show people, when you say what you're saying, this checked out. You mentioned his story. We're going to just scroll into it. Full-time 20 years, would be 20 years at this point with Homeland Security. We'll just look at a quick little snapshot. Started off as an agent in the Border Patrol in 2005, so a different federal service. Did a year and a half over there. Ended up as a special agent in Nogales, Arizona, working for what eventually became Homeland Security Investigations. I think they actually went through some name changes in the early days of the GWAT and the post 9/11. Special agent in New York, a supervisor in New York, so probably a 14 there. Went to resident agent in charge, which is going to be the senior 14 or maybe even a 15 at that point, and then working, in this case, unattached, and I think was working on behalf of, kind of like was a free loan investigator for national security stuff, and came across your awareness at ODNI maybe, or something to that effect.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. I'm summarizing it as best I can remember.
The reason why the Feds for Freedom organizers wanted me to cover this and mention it in my brief opening remarks that day was because they want this public. Because when it's not until this gets public that we're going to rattle the information loose. We're going to shake this loose somewhere, because our own investigation into this, we can go into as much detail about my investigation into this and my team's investigation into this as you want to. But we have interviewed the detective from Fairfax County Police Department, the homicide detective, that this is his case. I have interviewed the new homeowner of where the condo that Mark Osborne where he did reside, which has been sold. We have talked to multiple people that knew him as either a colleague, short-term, long-term, and as a close friend. He has close friends, and I'll just say this, at director level of intelligence.
The strange moments that coincide with his death. Number one, nobody expects. That's possibly something somebody could hide, so we could leave that as just a thing that exists. You said he did things in his life, renovating condo, new girlfriend, etc., making plans for future. This is generally things that people kind of avoid when they're contemplating suicide. He had also just briefed his investigative plan, which I think is what you find particularly alerting, and was preparing to take on this case, which we know is dangerous. And so
now let's get into the absolute specificity on this. Okay.
That's what I'm looking for.
So when I took this information to ODNI is not the type of intelligence organization that actually does these types of investigations. For instance, I had a very amusing conversation with Joe Kent on Wednesday, where we laughed about the fact that the intelligence community leaked to the press, both mainstream and conservative press, that I was the person that Joe Kent had leaked classified documents and classified technologies to.
Can I hold you on that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Do you also remember that there was this massive wave of bad PR that went after Joe Kent? He's a traitor. He gave information away, all this stuff. The FBI is now investigating Joe Kent, was the announcement by people from the FBI. Government sources say they've opened an investigation into Joe Kent. And that was the last we heard of it.
Oh, you know why it was the last we heard of it?
Yeah, I know.
Because it's not true. And this is what Joe was laughing, and he and I were laughing about on Wednesday, is how absurd it was, because it was so easily provable wrong. For instance, the fact that the mainstream press had intelligence community sources leaking to him that he had leaked to me, gait recognition technology.
Right.
had given me illegal access to government technology. And so Joe was like, at NCTC, we don't have that.
Nor would they have a need for it.
They're like, what? Yeah, we don't do that. So we don't have that. We do not have gait recognition technology on our computers.
Mm-hmm.
But guess who does? HSI. So the goal is to bring Mark Osborne in, and someone of similar worldview, philosophy, good guy, trustworthy, known within the good guy community. We'll just call it that.
Mm-hmm.
The good guy sub community of the IC. And my story, my evidence was presented to him. He thought it was worthy enough to run up the chain at HSI and see if they would take that on. Again, why did I not go to FBI? It's because nobody fucking trusts the FBI, period. Nobody in the IC trusts the FBI. Not Ray's FBI, not Patel's FBI. FBI is the FBI.
That's right.
And so the goal was to hopefully have HSI take this on as a full-on investigation of the agency itself. Mark looked at it, evaluated it, thought it was strong enough evidence to take it upstream.
When you say that, can I get granular with that for a second? Yeah. Did you give him a brief on this is what I found, this is what I believe has happened? How did that go over?
So,
or how was it presented to him to take on as a case is, I guess, the question.
I personally never met Mark Osborne face-to-face. Mm-hmm. My communications with him were private DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the certain individuals, other individuals who were intimately briefed on, I'm talking about, when I say intimately briefed, hours upon hours of briefing on this case.
By you?
By me.
Okay.
By me. That then third hand briefed Mark.
So I want to kind of summarize how Mark gets involved, because I've been on the federal agent side. Essentially, you're the complainant. You're somebody who is making an allegation to a government agency that a criminal, a federal crime has taken place. So you brought this
possible public corruption issue.
Okay, so you brought this to people, intelligence community. We're broadly saying things at ODNI. I don't need to get too specific for you. And you've had long form conversations where they said, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And you gave them all the more to the point of hours.
Correct.
So you're the reporting source of this potential problem. And then they turned around and said, well, we don't have the law enforcement mission. Is that right? They don't have the authority for law enforcement, because that's what ODNI is. They're intelligence. And they said, we'd like to go to not FBI, and not Secret Service, and not whatever, ATF or whatever. This is a thing that would fall into the category of Homeland Security Investigations, which is maybe the most broad charter of any federal agency. And they brought in this particular man who was at the end of his career, senior guy and well-respected. People thought he was on Team America, and they said, we're going to bring him in. That being because people at ODNI that were in the dig and in that little orbit had a pretty big distrust for what was going on, and that there was a lot of people that were not on Team America.
Yes.
Am I summarizing that correctly?
Correct.
And then because he was the intake federal agent, and he's got it reported, it's been referred to him as a complaint from another federal agency that doesn't have that investigative charter. And I've taken those things for whatever it's worth, folks. Like, someone from National Science reach out. I think we have fraud. Somebody from fill in the blank Commerce Department says, I don't think this is really our purview. This might be counterproliferation. Can you look into it with us? We'd like to partner with you from DIA or from Force Protection Pentagon. This is a regular thing where one agency says, we got this information from somebody. We're not the people. You might be. Would you look into it? And they don't tell you have to take it on. And from the brief that they got from ODNI people, he reached out and made third-party contacts. So now you're essentially a source in the case of information, and you're doing some DMs, and he's pinging ideas as he's beginning to formulate an investigative plan.
It's very important to make this point I'm about to make, because they want me to make this very clear, is that Mark Osborne was not a member of Tulsi's DIG, the Directors Initiative Group at ODNI. He was not a member of the DIG, but he was well-known, well-liked, well-respected, and well-trusted by members of ODNI, the DIG, National Counterterrorism, National Counterintelligence, et cetera, et cetera. which those two agencies also are under ODNI. So National Counterterrorism Center and National Counterintelligence Center.
It's an important distinction because that means that they went outside of their purview. It wasn't a guy that was like on loan to ODNI, and so he's one of us, so we're just going to hand this over. Right. This is, we've taken on something that is clearly not within our purview. This is not our jam. We know someone that we think would be a good investigator, so we're going to ask him. And theoretically, he could have said, oh, this isn't for my team, but I know the right person. He could have actually handed that off. He decided to look into it, as far as you know.
So
what do you know from there?
Well, so he took it. So after he saw it and he saw that there was some there, or potentially there was there, he decided to take this on, but he needed to run it up the food chain, obviously command level. So he went up the chain and he took it all the way to the top. And the deputy director levels of HSI turned it down. They did not want to take this on. They didn't want to touch it with a 1,000-foot pole. They knew that they would be going in a political, because, as you and I both know, Patel is a political figure. Ratcliffe is a political figure.
Yes.
I don't even know off the top of my head the name of the director of HSI, but these are political appointees and they are political figures, and they have to live with one another. There are certain things that they're just not going to do that will create problems for themselves. And one of the reasons why they turned this down is they knew where the position was from Patel, Ratcliffe on this story. And it was like, hell no, we're not doing it. And that's when Osborne sat down and briefed members of the community. I know who was at the table. I won't say which agencies, and I will not say who they were. But I know who was there, and they were briefed on by Mark in person on what he was going to do. He was going to take it on personally, what tools he was going to use, what technologies he was going to use, and what other individuals he was also going to bring into the investigative process.
All right. So that's known as an investigative plan. That's when you do a brief to your boss and you give them, okay, this is what I think happened. This is how I'm going to go about doing it. I'm going to need the following budget. I'm going to need the following resources. You lay all that out. That's what he was doing. He's proposing to open a case, and he's getting buy-in from people. And they sounded like he was a senior enough guy that they were senior people as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my last communication directly with Mark was on October 29th. And he, in that last communication, was briefing me on what he was going to do. And
what was the reason that he was telling you that?
What's that?
Why was he telling you?
Well, I'm the origin of this case. So, and he knew that it was me. So he was letting me know what the steps were going to be that he was going to take.
And was that theoretically that you would continue sharing information? I mean, there's got to be a reason why he has to tell you, because theoretically you could take on the intake and it's like, thanks for telling us, and then they never call you again. But he knew you were still working on this and was going to continue to generate information.
The interesting part about that is look at the timeline on that. October 29th was a week and a half before our story about Ms. Kirkoff even came out.
So yeah, we're going to get to the Kirkoff thing in 1 second here. She was identified on the 6th, November 6th, correct? Of 25?
November 8th. Well,
you identified her on the 8th.
Story on the 8th.
Yeah, so I'm trying to put the timeline on my pad right now, just for what it's worth. October 29th was the last time you spoke to him. We'll go real quickly over here to the Kirkoff piece that we have. The background information that we do have comes from Brian Cole Jr.'s filing. Folks, if you haven't seen this before, I'll link it as well today. I think I have. Oh, I have this on my local. I'll post it over on locals if you guys want. KyleSeraphin.com. We'll put this up. This is a filing that I think got pulled down at one point, didn't it? Didn't they refile this under seal?
It seems like I believe that.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Now that I'm seeing which filing it is.
Okay, so this is the filing that gave us information about the polygraph for the first time. This was sort of a fortuitous moment before. And interestingly enough, you had just finished, or you were just about to tape an interview with Megyn Kelly when this was dropped.
Same day.
Okay. What day is this thing from? This is from 4/1 of this year. I'm just going to put this on my pad. I'm just kind of tracking the things that came out. Okay, so this was filed on 4/1. This is the background information that previously was unknown to you.
Mm-hmm.
This is information that came from Cole's attorneys, who, by the way, you dropped on Tucker Carlson the other day, are now your attorneys as well.
That's correct.
And strategically, that's interesting because they can get discovery in the case and they can't share it with you, but they can still know where that stuff is and they can know if it's relevant to other cases.
Yeah. And you know, in full disclosure, I got a wrist slap from my attorneys yesterday. They're like,
For saying that?
We wish you hadn't talked about us on.
Yeah. Well, the reason is because the government is going to fight and say there's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
But the only reason that there would be a conflict of interest if it wasn't in the interest of Brian Cole Jr. and it's not in the interest of you and you're both in the same fight, it would seem.
We're in the same fight.
Yeah. So there's no conflict there. And any argument otherwise is going to be just government terrified they're about to get their asses handed to them. That's my opinion. You don't have to have an opinion on it. Shawnee Kirkoff was named as a person of interest in the January 5th, 6th, 2021 pipe bomb investigation. Ms. Kirkoff was a Capitol police officer on January 6, 2021, and president of the Capitol on that date. This is information coming from the filing by not me. This is not my opinion. These are filed in the court on behalf of Brian Cole Jr. She now works for the Central Intelligence Agency, again, stating public facts that are available in print. And again, they may have taken this thing down, but it was out in the public and it doesn't ever go away when I download it. So I did. According to discovery produced by the government in this case, the FBI began investigating, questioning, and covertly surveilling Ms. Kirkoff during the time it began investigating Mr. Cole. That's not entirely correct because it's not during the time. There was an overlap of the time, but it sounds like they started with Ms. Kirkoff first, as far as I can tell from this filing. On November 6th, which we just brought up, she was interviewed by the FBI. You had a whole backstory on how that happened. People can listen to the Tucker interview towards the end if they want to hear it. But essentially, she was told to come in. It was going to be a short interview. It ended up being about 4 hours from what we know. She was asked 2 relevant questions. This is from the filing. Quote, did you place those pipe bombs? And number 2, quote, did you place those pipe bombs that evening? Ms. Kirkoff failed the polygraph per the attorney's filing on behalf of Brian Cole. Again, this is not my statement of fact. This is something that they filed with the court. Polygraph, I'm just saying it over and over again because I'm not making these things up for my own benefit and I don't say them and I don't have to affirm the veracity. They're assumed to be factually, I'm assuming they can back this stuff up. The polygraph examiner noted that Ms. Kirkoff's, quote, very controlled reaction to the news of her failing the polygraph and seemingly rehearsed responses to the examiner's questions. The note, you said something to the effect of that she was admonished for this. That's
an admonishment right there.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not supposed to do rehearsed answers.
Correct.
Which is really hard to do, by the way. If you've ever been in a polygraph, people, you already know. You sit there, it's really awkward. You got all the crap on you, and then you say things, and everything you seem, it all feels awkward. There's no but if somebody comes in and polished, repeats the same exact answer in the same exact way with the same exact, intonation and so on, then maybe they get the instinct that they're rehearsed.
Or just hypothetically, if you've had 5 years to rehearse those answers, just in case.
We'll add another hypothetical on there, which is that, what's going on in a polygraph. And I don't know that Capitol Police polygraphs their people the way that the FBI does. I went through 2 polygraphs, I think. But one of the weirdest things that happens when you're doing them is that the polygraph is just a tool. It's as much a prop as anything else. And the polygrapher is really just doing a forensic interview, right. And they're trained to be, evaluating the posture and the body language and your responses. And it's not like a pass-fail, true or false, this person said a lie. It's that this person had a physiological reaction to this thing, and I believe it was because of the following things based on my training and experience, which is what law enforcement does every day.
Right.
We've done this a couple times where we've talked about it. You guys can go back and listen when this first came out, right around April 1st, April 2nd show. On November 7th, so here's our timeline again. I'm working on it. On the 6th, they brought her in, which means she was already identified. When you said you talked to Mark Osborne on October 29th, which means that information was in the hands of a federal agent before 29th. Do you know when you first spoke to or when he first got information? As I'm filling my timeline.
I actually have my timeline written, but I don't have it in front of me here as we're putting all this together because we're going to have to be so ultra detailed and specific about timelines now that there are court cases pending.
Sure. But August, September, was it the beginning of October? Was it did you speak to him for a couple of weeks before he was, before it was the last one?
Yeah, I actually know the exact date that I was introduced to Osborne, and let's just, in a general sense, it was a couple of weeks before my.
A couple of weeks is fine. I don't need to get you honed into a statement here. All right. So I'm not interrogating you per se.
No, that's fine.
We're doing an interview, but I think the timeline helps people understand. So for a couple of weeks, he's doing this. The last communication you have is on the 29th. The FBI could clearly be aware of this kind of thing. The CIA could probably be aware of it based on the interchange that was happening at ODNI. We know this sort of thing. Her name, do you know when Shawnee Kirkoff's name maybe was floated over? I think you brought that up on Tucker, but maybe not the date.
Again, this information
Roughly.
Was discovered in late September, early October, and then and again,
When was your story on the
know-
less than lethal? That's the question, I guess. That's what it should
I
be easy.
know the exact. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I have it.
Yeah.
I have a record of my first moment, the first time I heard her name, and I know exactly what that date is.
Yeah.
Or I should say I have record of that, of when that was.
It's not off the top of your head now. This is
No,
the
it's off
discussion you
my
were talking
head.
about with your source at Capitol Police, who
But-
identified from a picture.
But I was not looking at her as a bomber, and this is another insinuation. It's not only a false insinuation by the Fags, but also by Claire Locke,
Yeah.
the law firm of Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady. Is that I specifically picked her out of a lineup. And again, made this up, pulled her out of my ass for the purpose of framing her as the bomber. No. I was just trying to identify the last one remaining Capitol Police officer firing less lethals into the crowd from the little parapet up there, the little Upper West End Terrace, Upper West Terrace of the Capitol, the exact spot where they swear in presidents every 4 years.
Right.
Where they're inaugurated. And so from that exact position, there was one officer we couldn't identify. And I learned, and I did not even know at the time until I started this research, was that the less lethal squad of the Capitol Police were part of the CDU unit, the Civil Defense Disturbance Unit.
Right. Which is the riot squad.
Oh, great. Well, that's going to be easy because one of my longest term and most reliable sources at Capitol Police is a member CDU. So I just took a close-up screenshot, sent it over to him, said, "Who is this?"
Who
And
dis?
Huh?
Who dis?
Yeah, who dis? He goes, "Oh, it's Shawnee Kirkoff." Who is she? She's great. She was really, great officer, blah, blah, blah. She was a good hang. She was, we were all friends with her. And he said, but it was kind of weird when she left. He said she left about 6 months after January 6th, left the apartment. She went somewhere else. But it was kind of weird because she completely wiped out all of her social media, deleted all of her social media. She changed her phone numbers, changed her email addresses. Nobody was able to reach her any longer. And she just disappeared from our lives.
And there's not a good argument for that, for whatever it's worth, because people have been like, well, she went to the CIA. It's like she went to force protection theoretically at the CIA. That's not a reason to wipe all your stuff. I didn't have to wipe my stuff to become an FBI agent, even though I moved into counterintelligence. Like, nobody even asked me, like, do you have social media that you need to wipe? Like, it wasn't even a question. And I did theoretically more sensitive things because I was working cases against Chinese intelligence operatives and co-optees and so on. Not that I think that what I was doing was particularly interesting or exciting, but at least was a job of real sensitivity. Being a force protection person who checks badges at gates, that is not a reason to be able to like wipe all your comms and disappear from all your friends. You don't have to lose your friends and family to do that. I'm just pointing this out to people because when I talked to somebody who's a retired FBI agent and they were discussing this story as it was happening, and I'll bring it up again, his revelation to me was that you don't promote people to the CIA, you move people there because they have the tools to hide somebody. And so that being a possibility, and even if it was just like, oh shit, she used, overwhelming use of force that was illegal under, the statute and the terms that she was issued this less than lethal, and we're preserving the government, even in the most, insignificant, non-nefarious action, she took actions to disappear a little bit, and that's bizarre. And that's not necessary for that job. It just isn't. You can be an overt Capitol Police. I mean, not Capitol Police. You can be an overt force protection officer at CIA. They advertise the job publicly. Yeah. It's not a covert position. Right. There are jobs that are covert where you can't say what you do, and you're not supposed to, you have to lie and say you work for the State Department. It's called spot the spook. Whenever you meet somebody that's like that, you're like, oh, do you really work for State Department? That's a thing, but not working at the gate for CIA. Unless something else is going on.
An existing current employee of CIA, very senior high ranking, I'm not going to give
That's fair. That's
classification
enough, I think.
who has held her file, her employment file in his hands, told me to my face, this is not over the telephone, this is not in a DM, this is sitting in his living room, told me that when our CIA called me on Sunday morning after our story came out. Our story came out on November 8th.
Yep.
I got a phone call at exactly 9 a.m. on the Sunday morning, November 9th, of which I was told that we mischaracterized her employment in our story and that she was nothing more than campus security. And he told me that was a lie. And then he followed it up by going, you do understand that that's what we do for a living, right? We lie.
This is something that should be, first of all, digested by the fags, and second of all, digested by all the audience listening right now, to include the fags. There is no obligation for government spokespeople to tell the truth. There's none. And they regularly do not. And if you've ever worked in a federal government agency, you know they do this. They'll say that we're not going to comment on something, and then it becomes advantageous to comment, and then they do. They say we're not going to reveal things about this person, but then they leak it to the media anyway. This stuff is common practice. And so there is no reason why I cannot understand this. There's this ridiculous push to say that because, quote unquote, our guys are the heads of these agencies, that one, they are completely different agencies, which is absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous to claim that. And the second is that we should somehow trust something that comes from the government by default, simply by virtue of the fact that we like the people who are in charge of it. Government looks out for government. It is an overwhelming sort of position that I hold here at this podcast, and people who listen to me will hear it. And you can choose to believe that or not. But I deeply believe that government looks after government. Always. Regardless of who the boss is.
The blob protects the blob, period.
You said it that way. It's a totally reasonable way to phrase it. We can quote Mike Benz. You can also just say that the system is what it does. And what it does is not go after people unless they speak out. The biggest crime in the FBI is actually embarrassing the Bureau. It's not committing a crime. That should be very problematic for normal people. And people who are FBI agents who serve there know exactly what I'm freaking talking about. You know that the biggest crime is embarrassing the Bureau because you've also warned your junior agents and the people coming in that were drinking on the job or thinking about maybe using their Bupar to go see a stripper or whatever other dumb shit that you talked people out of. The crime is covering, like, you can cover up for the Bureau and they'll be happy for it. You can beat your wife or your girlfriend, and as long as you didn't do it in a way that embarrasses the Bureau and ruins some relationship, they'll be fine with you. You know, as long as you did it the right way. You didn't try to flash a badge and get out of it. Like, that's embarrassing the Bureau. The crazy thing is that Kash Patel has been embarrassing the Bureau, which is why they're going to let him hang his ass out and they're going to let it be a target. In any case, I want to finish this little bit from the complaint that we saw here, or the filing rather, if that's cool with you. I'm going to punch a little bit more on this. And as you said, lying and assuming that they are not being truthful should be a default position for anybody that's a normal human being. Be a skeptic of your government, for God's sake. November the 7th, 5 days before they opened the file on Mr. Cole. This is why I said the filing was a little bit disingenuous at the beginning. They said that they, at the same time, they were investigating each other. Yes, but Shawnee Kirkoff came first, 5 days after they opened the file on Mr. Cole, is what it says, on November 7th. So it sounds like they would have known about Shawnee Kirkoff sometime, maybe when you said it, when you brought it over to Odie and I. There's a decent chance it got shared. And then you've got...
we know it got shared because Odie and I produced a memo.
And it went around everywhere, right?
And it got sent while it was still in draft form. It was still being edited. It had not been signed off on yet as an approved memo yet. And Tulsi's deputy director leaked it. Okay, it's not fair to characterize it as a leak. The deputy director of Odie and I sent it over to the deputy director of CIA.
I'll tell you what that email said, by the way. FYSA. They always do. It's a for your situational awareness. That's what you do. You send something over and it doesn't say you need to take action or you need to know about this or be advised. It says for your situational awareness, and that means whatever you think it means to you. Just be aware that this thing is happening. And those emails would pop up all the time. They would have nothing to do with me. You get an FYSA, and sometimes it's tongue in cheek because it'd be like, like somebody you knew was doing something stupid. And sometimes it was like, holy shit, you better know that we're doing this over here in my office, FYSA.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you that's my speculation that's what it probably said, because those are the way those things work. On November 7th, 5 days before the FBI opened their file on Brian Cole, again, so they opened their investigation him November 12th. So they're deep into doing whatever the Shawnee Kirkoff thing was, including a polygraph at that point. November 7th is a day after the polygraph. She was a person of interest. They opened a file on her, which means they had a sub-file in their main case. That sub-file should be available to discovery for Mr. Cole's attorneys. They should get everything in it, because they've already said that they'd like to raise an alternate theory of the crime as one of their possible defenses, and they are entitled to do so, I believe. The government immediately issued subpoenas, preservation requests, electronic accounts, and so on and so forth. Of course, the CIA, it seems like they've done a scrub, or maybe Ms. Kirkoff did it herself on November 12th. The same day the government officially opened into Mr. Cole, FBI agents attempted to question both Mr. Dickert, who was a Capitol police officer at the time, and Ms. Kirkoff, who was at the CIA at her residence, his residence, their residence. They also interviewed the dog walker. You've interviewed the dog walker, as I recall, or you've at least run down information.
Somebody on our team has done so. I have.
Okay. It's been identified that this person existed. You guys were able to do a deep web scrape. We've posted stuff on social media before. You guys can see. And they brought up the single dog. This is one of the narratives that you were talking to Tucker about. Do you want to do the evolution of it? I'm going to wrap this up in just a second with maybe a final couple of questions. But the dog walker thing, the evolution of the dog walker story, I think you and I have talked about how it has two major components. Number one, there is no problem with a lie being printed. And we've seen the three sources saying things, and they immediately change the story without any consequence because they know that what they're saying is BS.
Right.
And then the second piece of it, I think, is that maybe the attorneys that are doing the filing on behalf of the folks that are suing you, they don't maybe even know the truth or even come close to understanding what the real story is. And they might be operating in the dark because they're making claims that are clearly false.
Well, look, when CBS gets a call from 3 independent FBI sources familiar with the video, the alibi video of Ms. Kirkoff on the evening of January 5th, while the hoodied bomber was placing the devices at the DNC and the RNC, that they were familiar with the video and that her alibi video showed that she was at home, and this is the quote from CBS, playing with her puppies. 3 sources. Infamous 3 sources. They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Why 3? Why is 3 the number?
I guess it lends credibility to the story. I don't know. So look, when the Daily Wire called me, the reporter from the Daily Wire, to question me and get me to go on the record and comment about the accusation of me being the recipient of leaks from Joe Kent at the National Counterterrorism Center. Mm-hmm. He specifically said, I have 3 independent, separate IC sources who have phoned me and told me that you're the recipient of those leaks. It's always 3.
Let me read it, just since I was able to bring it up pretty quickly. How an innocent woman's name was tied to the January 6th pipe bomb. It's written by Jennifer Jacobs, Pat Milton, and Arden Farhi. A federal security officer linked to a thwarted January 6th pipe bomb attack cleared her name by providing an alibi video of her playing with her puppies at the time the devices were placed, sources told CBS News. This was written on November 25th for those who are keeping track.
Read the next line. The FBI has now ruled her out.
The FBI has now ruled her out as a suspect in the 2021 plot, according to 3 sources.
There they are.
There they are. But only after her name circulated on social media and a conservative platform.
Okay, now.
Wait, do you want to lean into this for a second?
Go ahead.
Watch.
There is still no suspect in custody 4 years after someone placed pipe bombs outside the DNC and the RNC in Washington, D.C. the night before January 6th. But in the CBS News exclusive, we have details about a federal security officer whose name was linked to the thwarted attack. CBS News senior White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs joins us now live. Jennifer, first, let's remind our viewers what happened the night before January 6th, before the riots and before the January 6th riots at the DNC and RNC headquarters.
Right. This is a mystery that has been unsolved for nearly 5 years. The FBI released some video that showed this person late on the night of January 5th planting some bombs outside the Democratic and Republican Party headquarters. January 5th, 2021, they offered a $500,000 reward. But The bombs were viable, but they never exploded. They never detonated. And there's never been an arrest in all these years.
Woman's name was tied to this crime. I don't know if my mic caught that, but I want to repeat that for a second. You learned that an innocent woman's name was tied to this crime. How did her name come up in the first place, and how did she eventually clear it?
Here it comes.
Right. Imagine that you are just going about your life, working your job as a federal security officer, and then you suddenly find yourself the target of some viral speculation online that you are the person that planted these unexploded pipe bombs outside of the Democratic and Republican Party headquarters. Now,
Steve, just imagine that you're going about your life, working at the Capitol Police, and then getting hired by the CIA, and then some mean guy comes along and just makes something up. Anyway, I want to finish her thought, and I'll come back to you.
CBS News is not naming this federal security officer because she declined to comment through her lawyer. But sources told CBS News that apparently an intelligence agency received a tip from a media-affiliated person. A draft memo on these allegations was written up. This memo started circulating in a narrow circle within the Trump administration, and it created some skepticism inside the White House, inside the FBI. But the FBI felt obligated to pursue this tip, and they did so. And sources tell CBS News that she now has been cleared.
All right, we're looking at surveillance video of this suspect. Are we any closer to finding the person in that video?
Sources told CBS News that this female security officer did cooperate with the FBI. She was placed on a brief leave from her job, but no, she has been cleared at this point. The FBI has been continuing to investigate this crime. It doesn't sound like they have identified anyone yet, but even throughout this investigation into this federal security officer, they were looking at other leads, and they continue to do so.
So,
let me ask you a question, Kyle.
Sure. I'm just looking at on November 6th.
Why did they keep referring to her as being a federal security officer and absolutely deliberately avoided the knowledge they had that she works for CIA?
Well, it's a simple question, right? When you conjure up the name CIA, then people start thinking about the CIA and what the CIA has done, and it actually means something to people.
Because it means something.
It means something. Because it's a relevant piece that really changes it. So does on November 6th, she was interviewed by the FBI and asked deliberately, did you plant those pipe bombs? And then the claim, at least in this filing, that she failed said polygraph. That also seems really relevant. And so those sources that were calling were doing damage control. If you ask me, I don't know the answer why, and I'm not sure you do either. The specific reason why the FBI decided to run cover for this, because they would have been heroes if they were to bring up and show that there was a governmental conspiracy that showed that the intelligence agencies set up and tried to do something crazy on January 6th, which has been the allegation of Donald Trump. It's been the allegation of Kash Patel. It's been the allegation of Dan Bongino. Imagine being able to prove that you were right. How many of us would love to get into the position of being in law enforcement where we now are read in on the story? Someone brings you the story of like, this is the thing you said happened. You said the Fed set it up. You said it was a training exercise. You said that they were using it as a potential distraction. We have all the evidence from all the years that they didn't bring out the story of Kamala Harris and they never actually tried to parade it. And she never went out there and said I was almost killed by right-wing loonies. And you got the actual evidence that someone from the federal government was involved. If you got all that in your hands and you're Daniel Bongino, how on earth do you not step up and go, I got it. We've got him. I was right. I was always right. You know, everything I said, it was correct. My suspicions from the outside were reasoned inferences that's why you should be listening to me when I leave here, because I am an authority. You ready for this real quick? I'm pretty confident that we got our man.
My first meeting, I swore in, and I kid you not, probably 15 minutes later, and the people who are in the meeting know, I said, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. And I looked at the case agent after getting a full brief on what they'd done, and they had done a pretty extensive amount of work. They had chased down, I think, thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews had been conducted, hundreds of tips, and it still was relatively stale, the case. And I grabbed the case agent on the way out, and I said, you're going to get me this guy. You're going to track this guy down, and you're going to find him. You're going to get me this guy. I want him. And that started what's been almost a 9-month operation right now to make sure that we could get full accountability and transparency to the American public and find this guy. And today we did.
Go on.
Okay. Because it's important, we need to get back to the Mark Osborne thing, but I want to finish up the puppy thing real quick. All right. Yep. That was the first iteration. The first iteration is given to CBS by FBI was that she was home playing with her puppies. The second iteration happened because of something you actually assisted me with, was the release of photography of the adopted adult greyhound. It was not puppies, plural. It was not puppies. It was an adult retired racing dog from Florida that Ms. Kirkoff and her partner, we'll call him, went down to Florida and adopted this dog, brought it back. They had scrubbed the internet of this information, but we found it. You can go dark web and you can find echoes and shadows of people's information that they've tried to remove. And we found the social media postings of their dog adoption 1 month before January 6th. In fact, it was 1 month before January 5th. December 5th, they adopted this dog. We also found the dog walker sitter, that babysitter, and the 5-star review that Ms. Kirkoff had given of his, services and naming the adult dog. And so because we had embarrassed them that it wasn't puppies, that it was an adult dog, and that somehow 3 highly intelligent, trained FBI sources misidentified an adult dog as puppies, you can make a case for however you want to interpret that. But the bottom line is that in the filing that was what's called a preservation letter from Claire Locke, when they initially were considering filing a lawsuit against me, my partner Joe Hanneman, and the Blaze, was they told us in the filing, they changed the verbiage. They said that Ms. Kirkoff was at home caring for her dog. So the 3 FBI sources familiar with the video told CBS that she was at home playing with her puppies. Now it's changed to she is now caring for her dog.
And they called this out in the lawsuit. I attempted to draw contrast between the language, which is specifically and different. It's video evidence conclusively demonstrates she was at home caring for her dog versus CBS provided alibi video for playing with her puppies. Those are distinctly different things. And everybody who's an investigator knows that these kind of details actually do matter.
Yeah, and you don't make that mistake if you're a professional.
There's no accident. If I see someone hanging out with a dog, I wouldn't be like, oh, she's with her puppies.
And this is the other thing that people have to understand. When these 3 sources run to CBS, they haven't seen the fucking video. They've been told to tell CBS what they've been told to tell CBS.
Right. And apparently it looks like this, a still photograph of a dog that's asleep. And this is caring for a dog. Nobody would look at this and be like, oh, well, you're just caring for your dog.
No, this
is like, I'm making fun of my dog, which is snoring maybe, which is what we're believing. See her nape. This is how I talk about my dog. You can see her neck vein sticking out. Do you see it? I told you.
But this is the third iteration of the story, because now we're into the lawsuit itself.
Right.
And so it's no longer playing with puppies. It's no longer at home playing
caring for a
dog. Now it is, oh, well, Ms. Kirkoff is not actually even in the video, but you can hear her voice outside the video saying these things right here that you put on the screen.
It's just a disembodied voice. Why would anyone distrust a disembodied voice?
No.
It's like they don't even have videos of her caring for or playing with puppies or dogs ever. And so they were like, oh shit, do we have any video of the dog?
No.
Do we have any video of the dog that's close to that time? Can we put a voice over the top of it? I mean, that's how dumb this sounds to people who are looking from the outside. You just go, wait, you're trying to tell me that the CIA can't put a voice into at the very minimum, what does the forensic look like on this video? And of course, have you gotten it in your discovery so far?
No.
Has anyone ever seen it as far as you know?
Can't comment.
Yeah, got it. Fair enough. This is the other fun thing, because we're working around an ongoing lawsuit.
Our knowledge, currently, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that's what I heard you say, Tucker, and it makes sense to me as well.
Now, look. What does any of this have to do with Mark Osborne?
What does it?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what it has to do with Mark Osborne. This is only the beginning of the extent of what they're willing to do to frame an innocent young man, an autistic black man, This is the beginning of the extent to which they are willing to go. We learned also from this lawsuit, Kyle, that you had up on the screen there. They notified Kirkoff and her partner, Mr. Dickert, 12 hours in advance before they raided their house. Is that standard practice of the FBI?
Never heard of that. Unless you're doing a surrender, unless you're getting a voluntary surrender. You don't execute a search warrant by letting someone know you're doing a search warrant.
What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
It's like, go hide your hoodie, go hide your shoes. And I mean, isn't that right? And oh, by the way, you might want to prepare your answers for a polygraph.
Yeah. I don't know who would, under what circumstances. Be very interesting to get the cell phone pings for the day right after that from both phones from these individuals that live there that apparently got tipped off that they're about to have a federal search warrant. I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
And was it as far as we know, it was the FBI that did the tip off?
Look, it's been quite a few weeks now since I started going through that lawsuit. So I don't want to, and believe me.
Was it in that document?
The fags will call me out if I get 1 hour wrong or 1 moment or 1 day wrong on this. But what I recall from my reading through the first time of the draft, or not the draft, but the lawsuit itself is that.
Oh, this is your lawsuit. They said it, didn't they?
Yes, my lawsuit. That they actually tipped them off the night before, told them that they were coming in the morning.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing. So, let's go back to where did we last leave Mark?
You were talking about him contacting you on October 29th?
Yes.
Yeah, I have notes.
October 29th is the last communication I had with him. He sat down either just in that timeline and again, I have the date. I actually have it. It's in handwritten form, handed to me by somebody who was there. I have the date. I cannot remember what it was off the top of my head, but it is a date when that briefing took place, when Mark Osborne briefed members of the community what he was going to do in this investigation, taking it on his own. And this was the last time that anybody in that meeting heard from him was November 10th, as I recall. And then on the 26th, his girlfriend found him dead in his condo the day before Thanksgiving. Now, I'm just going to go through, this is what we know. This is lightning round through what we know. He was found dead on the 26th. His body was cremated on the 19th. In the interim, there's no obituaries, there's no announcements, there's nothing public, there's nothing on the police blotter, nothing in the press, local, there in Oakton, Fairfax County, Virginia. There's nothing there. Total silence. Now, there's an announcement that comes out internally inside HSI that there's going to be a celebration of life gathering get-together to remember their dear lost colleague, Mark Osborne. And I sent that to you last night. Do you have it? This is it. And this is not a public announcement. This is an internal memo at HSI.
Yeah.
Go down to the very bottom.
We're not going to be able to scroll on this one because the way that it came in,
okay.
But I can pull it up here. Hold on, give me a second. I'll see if I can pull it up. I may have already.
I'll continue narrating here as it. So,
yep.
So there's nothing, and by the way, I mean, okay, so he is a high-ranking senior agent in the intelligence community, HSI, and people are going to be quiet. The internal rumor that's put out is that he has committed suicide. Nobody buys it. So the people that we know that know him well, if you look at the bottom there at the date, this is the announcement of where they're going to get together and have a beer, January 12th. So he was found dead on the 26th of Thanksgiving, cremated on December 19th. celebration of life gathering on January 12th. Our people that went to that, all in the discussion with their drinks in their hands, all whispering to one another, going, no fucking way he killed himself. Now, I have my heart event on the Sunday before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I was notified 2 days before that of this death. I spent a week in a hospital. 2 weeks later, I can't take it anymore, Kyle. I've got to get back and I've got to start investigating this. I contact my cardiologist. Can I go to DC? He says, you can't fly. Can you? And I said, okay, no problem. I always drive to DC, so I'll drive. He doesn't want me to go. He said, but take it easy, do a day or two at a time, no long extended trips, blah, 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 blah. So I went up there, and this was right after the big snow event, and there's just massive piles of snow everywhere. And I beeline it straight to the condo where Mark Osborne's body was found. All right. Before I arrived, we had already pulled up all of the information. We knew that the unit had already been sold. Now, by mid-January, now he died in unit, found dead on the 26th. By mid-January, that unit had already been sold. All right. Very quick turnaround on this. So I knew that it was sold, but I went there pretending midday, middle of the afternoon. My goal was to canvass the other condo, the other units, and if anybody was home in the middle of the day, and ask them if they'd seen anything, heard anything, if they knew anything, blah, 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 about Mark.
Time out 1 second. Yeah. The reason you're there, if I am interpreting correctly, is that everybody says this wasn't a suicide. Nobody has any information that can say definitively, like, we think this might be a murder investigation. And so are you digging at that? Is that
Yes.
the claim you're digging at? Okay. I just want to make people aware of why you're there.
Yeah. And
you're looking for evidence that this was in fact not a guy who got overwhelmed by life and took the way out.
Right. And at this point, we've not spoken to Fairfax County Police Department.
Okay.
All right. So, and they're not going to speak to me anyway, because I'm a journalist, period. Right. So not happening. No sense in even making the overture. And so all we know is that there's been no public announcement, no medical examiner report, no nothing at this point by mid-January. So I show up at the condo complex, and I have the address. I go to the address. I'm going to be pretending, and this is my role was going to be this, that I was a real estate buyer, and I was looking at that unit because it had been recently, it had been on Zillow, unit number, I'm not going to say it because idiots will track it down, but unit number so and such had been, was up for sale, but we also knew that it had already been sold. But I was pretending that I didn't know that. And so while I'm up there taking some photographs and then getting ready to start knocking on doors to ask about the unit, is that unit still available? I'd like, do you know anything about it? And then I would lead those conversations into possibly what they may have seen or heard on the day of the death. And so there's a guy carrying boxes up the stairs to that unit. And I said, do you know anything about unit number so-and-so and so? And he goes, yeah, I just bought that. I went, what? He goes, yeah, I just closed on that unit last week. And I went, you're kidding me. I said, you got unit number so-and-so? He goes, yes. And I said, oh, darn, I was looking at that unit. In fact, and I lied. And I said, I was here a couple of weeks ago. And so I was coming back and I was hoping that it was still available, and et cetera, et cetera.
Can we also, because I know our chat is bringing this up, talk about how fast that close would be for something that should be in probate after somebody's death? I mean, did that not struck? I mean, obviously it struck you. It had to have struck you.
Yeah, we were stunned at how fast that thing was turned around.
It doesn't mean anything on its own, but taking property and selling it from someone who passed away, and he did so in November, and then by January, what'd you say? January something?
Yeah, 6-7 weeks later,
it's already gone.
Yeah.
That's insanely fast.
Yeah, very fast.
All right.
So, really nice gentleman. And, he stops, he puts his box down, and we talk, and he said, hey, there's another a unit just kind of down underneath me down here. That's I think it's still available. We walk down the steps together. He shows me the address. I write the address down. And he said, yeah, I think we got the same real estate agent. And so they'll know. And I said, oh, great. I really appreciate that. And so we shook hands, and he starts walking to his car. I start walking to my car, and then I pull the Columbo move on him. And I go, wait, just a minute. Just one more quick question. And I walk back over to him, and I say, when I was here a couple of weeks ago, I heard something weird happened in that unit you bought. And he said, and I quote, he goes, yeah, I was told the guy was murdered. He didn't say suicide. He said, I was told the guy was murdered. Now,
Right.
Kyle, I got totally knocked off my game.
It happens.
I was like,
Because the best follow-up is told by whom?
exactly. And
It could happen to anybody.
I've kicked myself in the ass 1,000 times since that day by not asking him the follow-up question. But the reality was I never expected to hear from him. I thought he was just going to say, yeah, somebody died, or he didn't know. I actually kind of thought maybe he wouldn't know. I think there's a real estate law that you have to inform a new person or whatever that something has happened. But nevertheless, I didn't expect such a immediate and confident, I was told he was murdered.
Right. And you speculated why that would be on Tucker, and I think that was a very good speculation. It's just as easy. I'm trying to get to my unit. You can't come in right now, or we'll let you through, but you got to stay to the left side of the wall. It's like, what the hell's going on? Like, oh, yeah, there was a guy in there. He was found dead. There was a guy in there. We think maybe your neighbor committed suicide. We're involved in a death investigation versus we're conducting a homicide investigation right now, or your neighbor was murdered, and that's some guy on the outside of the perimeter who got the call and was told, and nobody told them you can't talk to the people that live in the units. That's how that gets passed. It doesn't make it definitive, obviously, and I think you pointed that out as well.
Yeah.
It does make it another piece of the sort of bizarre circumstances. Fast cremation, nobody sees it coming. A very rapid probate solution and selling of the unit and turnover, which means you get new everything in there and all the old stuff is out. That's crazy, wild, fast. You'd think that you'd have to clean up.
Yeah.
Which means you're probably pulling either you're pulling flora up if it's carpet, or you are doing like a deep sterilization clean. It can be done.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's people that do that. Crime scene cleanup is a thing, but very wild. And then the body being gone and nobody knowing what to do with it. And then no announcement of it and not popping up. Hey, so-and-so passed because of suicide. It's a great time to remember, your colleagues may be suffering for something. Every time there's a suicide in law enforcement, it's a great time to talk about suicide in law enforcement, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And you don't see that. And that is a thing that does come up. Every time I've heard of a suicide, people they bring it up and they go, yeah, this happened. And it's a good time to remember, talk to your friends, make sure that somebody's not going through something.
So since that day, now just again, really fast as I can go here. A member of our team who is a retired 26-year veteran, FBI, now a private investigator, he has actually sat down face to face with the homicide detective who has that case.
Yeah,
who would not give him anything. The only thing that homicide, other than there has as yet been no medical examiner report released. That's the only piece of really valuable information. But the second most valuable piece of information given to our guy is that the detective did say and did admit, the fact that there's been no news, public announcement, obituary, no nothing. He goes, yeah, that's a little weird.
I've done death investigations. I don't have a ton of experience in a lot of things that regular cops do, but suicide was a fairly common thing in Indian reservations. So I've been around for that. I've had to do notification. It sucks. And I've had to be the one on scene and pick up a body and send them off for medical examiner. And sometimes they take a long time in small areas, like in New Mexico. That was a thing. But if somebody had reached out to me from local law enforcement or a retired person who used to work in the same place that I was and was like, is there any indication this is more than just a death investigation? You're just doing I don't think it would be a problem to talk about it. It's like, we're investigating it as a suicide. Obviously, we'll wait till the coroner report comes back, but no obvious indication that there's something more there. And it seems unusual to me. And Fairfax PD, they're political, they're in the space.
They're in that the greater DC area. They're very political.
We had very good contacts though, and I had very good reputation with like the people that are in Fairfax PD. I think the FBI has a very cordial relationship. It's not adversarial. A lot of commonalities, a lot of task forces, and so on. So this is not, and I know the person you're talking about, and it would not be a difficult thing to get in front of them and have a very collegiate relationship thing. And
this is where it gets weird, man.
That's weird to begin with.
Is now we're full on with our sources. So these are the people now who have, now it's not just our guy from the outside, who lives in Southern Florida.
Right.
Now we have locals, people within the community, law enforcement and IC people with close sources at Fairfax County. And now, because I started poking around and sending our guys in, gag order straight across. Nobody's talking.
Mm-hmm.
We have had people from our sources within, and by the way, I'm not going to say who. And of course, the fags will criticize me for, he never reveals his sources. Yeah, fuck you. I'm not going to. But extremely high ranking neighborhood sources within law enforcement have contacted Fairfax. They now will no longer speak about this case. Nothing. No medical examiner report, no police blotter, no announcement, no obituary, no family talking about it, nobody in the community talking about it. Now, in addition to law enforcement sources reaching out to their colleagues just to get a whisper and a wink and a nod and a little bit of an inside track on this case, they're not getting anything. Nobody will talk, but also members within the IC who also have resources, contacts, and relationships inside Fairfax County Police Department. They will not speak to them either.
Yeah, that's about right.
Now, that's all we know. Now,
you called me when this happened and you said there's already been someone killed. I think that's your instinct that you can have an opinion. That seems to be your opinion. Am I inaccurate about that? You think this was?
Yeah, I mean, the fags would say, "Why haven't they killed me?" I'm the loudest voice out there.
Well, that's my final question to you, Steve. You got the Tucker interview on record. Do you think that you are in danger? Do you think you have been in danger?
Well, this. There was another layer or follow-up question to that. Why haven't they killed me? It's because I am the loudest voice out there. It's too obvious. But if you don't want one of your members inside your community going off reservation, and you want to send that signal to the rest of the community, we don't tell you no and then you go do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on a case that ultimately, when it's fully known and fully realized by the American public, is a multi-agency conspiracy to create what happened on January 6th. Because that's what this case is all about.
Right. And if we were to take the information, let's call it at its worst, mm-hmm. and say what it would implicate, the hypothetical that everything you're alleging is correct and that all the people you say would be involved, could be involved, that they actually are involved. If we take that in that little war gamed out scenario, it implicates either the Senate Majority Leader or the Speaker of the House or both, because somebody is in charge of Capitol Police. It involves the top people that are in part of the Praetorian Guard of the Capitol Police, the people that have all the dirt on the mm-hmm. people that have been there forever. And they know all the sexual improprieties. They know all the substance abuse. They know all the financial sketchiness. They know all the, beat up a hooker, whatever all this stuff is. And then it involves probably ATF, because we've seen ATF crossover involvement on the day of, and ATF personnel being moved into Capitol Police, which is a completely illogical move. I've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anyone that's ever done it. So that's bizarre, especially into the places they went. Then you add into the fact that we have the CIA theoretically implicated as well, which would likely tread and trade in that type of information and, work operations to get favorable outcomes for the agency. Again, government begets government. Mm-hmm. And then you have this sort of other thing that comes in, which is the question of did the FBI do all this stuff? And my instinct is no. And I think from our conversations, your instinct is also no, but they were involved at some point and they were told this is the game and you're part of it. And so here we go. Tucker Carlson said he's never seen Daniel Bongino as scared as he saw him, that somebody obviously scared the shit out of him. He didn't even sound confident. I'll play this little clip and then I want to come back to that question about safety, because I'm quite interested if you want to tell anything about, what you think your exposure looks like. This is Sean Hannity doing rare journalism.
You know, I don't know if you remember this. This is before you became the deputy FBI director. You put a post on X right after this happened, and you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, you know, long before you were even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think as again, legal process starts to surface and information and facts start to come out, the public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to, you know, listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director, and we base investigations on facts. And, you know, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser.
Blah. And he goes and talks about Russiagate, because why not?
I'll say it again. I've said it 100 times now. Top 3 priority of the agency. Number 1 priority of Dan Bongino. We heard that in a previous clip you showed today. Within 15 minutes of him being sworn in, his first meeting, I have to have the bomber. Go get the bomber. He and Cash told Maria Bartiromo it was top 3 priority and listed as the number 1 priority of the administration to find the January 6th pipe bomber. So they do their dog and pony show on Dan Bongino's birthday in December, first week of December. And they all pat each other on the back, except for one person who's never patted them on the back and said, "Attaboy, Dan, attaboy, Cash." And that's the President of the United States. And nobody from the Oval Office, nobody in the White House, senior staff, have ever congratulated them on the arrest of Brian Cole Jr. And that's because every source we have works at the White House. And by the way, when we say sources, do you know that these people all attend parties? They go to wedding receptions together, and they have a drink in their hand, and then they whisper and talk about things that are going on. And that sipping the white wine, nobody at the White House believes that Brian Cole Jr.'s arrest was a righteous arrest. They say stuff like that at these parties. That person becomes a source. Maybe nobody I've ever known before, never seen before, never heard of before, but suddenly they've said it. And then, as Tucker acknowledged, and certainly somebody who has a lot of sources within the White House, he said, he said, that's why you're on the air with me today. Because our sources confirm that nobody at the White House is buying this arrest.
And we were trying to find a way for you to tell that story. I mean, I'm an advocate in this place. I'm not acting as some sort of like impartial journalist. Obviously, I don't have any interest in doing that for what we're talking about here. I know too much about this. I've been someone who touched it at the beginning, and I know people that are at the FBI have the same exact question. They have the same exact whisper that it's bullshit. And I get it from people that are in and out of headquarters, people that are in and around the Washington area, and then people who are just broadly in the field who look at it that are intelligent investigators that have done a bunch of them and just go, why would anyone believe this? And when you got people that are FBI agents working on the job right now that are looking at their agency and saying you're doing a setup, that's got to be hard. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine going to work in a place like that. I can't fathom going in knowing that these people, how about my buddy Garrett? I mean, nothing for nothing. Like, he's got to go in there knowing every day that he's heard all this information. There's plenty of them that don't know what's going on in the world, but there's some that do. And you got to go in that job every day and go, my agency arrested a guy to try to cover up on behalf of whatever the hell went down on that day. And we could have the answer. And the people who campaigned on getting it, they've decided that it's too dangerous, or maybe it's not in their best interest, or they're going to play ball, or maybe they're just scared shitless, like you see the eyes of someone like Daniel Bongino. 292 days. Everyone, and then he has to run a cover campaign about why he was leaving. It's like, you got your birthday gift and now you're out. Come on, bro.
Right.
Anyway, 2 of those 4 have been crossed off the list and are no longer part of the administration. There's only 2 left that are going to hold the bag. One's Kash Patel, and the other one is Jeanine Pirro. And couldn't happen to 2 nicer people, to be honest with you, when it finally comes out.
And only one of them do I know anything about. And my sources tell me that he's extremely compromised. And
Yeah, I think
he is extremely vulnerable to the deep state elements that remain within the agency or the Bureau.
yeah. If nothing else, he really likes flying in that jet, from what we can tell.
Either that, or he's just a narcissist and likes the jet.
Yeah. Steve, are you in danger, generally speaking? Do you think that there's any, do you have any risk in continuing on this case, which I know you're going to keep doing?
The only danger, I don't fear the bullet to the back of my head. I don't. I mean, look, there's no reason in walking around with that fear, because the bullet that kills me, I'll never hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's over at that moment, you know? And
do you think there's something more nefarious that's dangerous to you?
Well, that's the only other thing that we continue to be concerned about and look at is just other methods that they have for, I know what they can do and will do to family. I know what they can and do to me. Look, show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we've seen them put kiddie porn on Cheryl Atkinson's husband's computer. Look what they've done to Catherine Herridge in just the last 24. SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, would not even stand up for her as her First Amendment rights to protect her sources. And she's under a daily $800 a day fine for every day that she will not reveal her sources on a story. Mm-hmm. Now, coincidentally, the judge who put that on her is Judge Christopher Cooper, the judge that had my case in my January 6th.
Only a couple names out there. Well, I'll tell you this, as a guy who used to have to carry a belt as a paramedic that had the narcotics that I had because they were of value and we didn't leave them in the truck whenever we were working. I had to belt them on every time I went to work when I was a medic. You say the word, I'll send you a Faraday fanny pack so you can carry around your meds and keep them safe and keep them out of people's hands and untampered, and you can keep a pistol with it and you can put your phone in a Faraday bag anytime you want to. So you say the word and I'll get one of those your way. I'll send you the one I have right now.
I have 4 Faraday bags in my line of sight right now. Really nice ones. I spent premium dollars to get the good ones. And I don't have one for my meds, but see, this was we haven't told this story yet, but you know about it, is that we believe that just 2 weeks ago that I had a hotel room in the DC metro area that was breached. And there was a specific signal left to let me know that it was breached. And because because of my heart situation, I am on a cocktail of meds, and all of my med bottles were sitting out on the counter where they left the signal. So yeah, there are things I am concerned about, and I have my own team, including those from the community, are very concerned and have admonished me at my lack of concern about my security processes and what I've not done up to this point. So I've tightened some things up.
Fair enough. That's the answer. Like I said, let me know if you want a waistband to be able to carry it all in. Let's let people know they can support here. What's the easiest? Is there a financial support mechanism to be able to keep this going?
Yeah, and again, despite what the fags say about me being a grifter, that sort of thing, it's kind of it's hilarious on its face. But the bottom line is that yes, we have a need. The need is great. I will tell you that we got a great deal of support right when Joe and I left the Blaze. The support was phenomenal. It was a huge blessing. Got it everything kicked off and got us going. I think it shows on our Gibson Go page that we've raised something in the order of $28,000, something like that. There's been more that has come in through other sources, not directly to Gibson Go, but our burn rate, just for Joe, myself, our team, our legal, accounting, and contracting with some of our other team members, our burn rate's about $20,000 a month. And that's not coming in right now. So both of us are dipping into our own pockets. We're going in arrears right now. Mm-hmm. So I put that out there to say that we do need your support. If there's somebody out there that wants to pay for a month of our operation, we only need about 8 to 10 more months to close this out. We're going to win both cases. We're going to win the criminal case for Brian Cole, and we're going to win the case that Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady has launched against me, Joe, and the Blaze. We're going to win both of those.
Yeah, I'll just tell you this from my position here. If people are thinking about supporting our channel, and there's ways you can do that, put Steve's in front of mine. There's people that are trying to do some work that is, I think, groundbreaking, and they're going up against a monster. And I'm going to continue to eat. I'd like to see these guys be able to continue this work. I think they'll go into their own pocket until they have nothing. But it'd be nice if you guys are thinking about supporting somebody and you want to do independent journalism and you got a subscription somewhere else and you think you like the podcast. There's a guy that's out there crawling around on his hands and knees, buying shoes and doing the work that our federal agencies spend $11 billion and won't do. So just my pitch to you. I'm happy to forego some of your support and jump in and look after my buddy there and look in what Joe Hanneman's doing and Armitage and the contracted retired agent who doesn't fall into the fags category. We appreciate all you guys doing the work. I appreciate you coming on and talking. I know this is a long one. I'm kind of blessed my brain didn't explode while my migraine has just kind of been sitting in abeyance right now. So thanks for doing a marathon with us, and be safe, buddy. Honestly, just be really safe, and we'll continue to talk, obviously, offline.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, bud.
Appreciate it. You got it.
Love you. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Steve Baker, he's the best, you guys. I'll talk to Steve for as long as he'll talk. Whenever we get on the phone, it ends up being like 20 minutes just to say one sentence. So anyhow, support our channel by giving us a like. That's free. Support it on YouTube. Support it on Rumble. We appreciate all that. Follow us on Locals if you guys are so inclined. You can sign up and be part of the free community at kyleseraphin.com if you want to be able to read the complaint or any of the documents we post. I do that on a daily basis. It's available. You want to support me on X, you can do the same thing. It's a $2 subscription there. It's $5 in the other places. Support Steve first. Go in there and make a pledge to him. Go support Veritas, Regnat, if you guys want to see this thing go on. And he underplayed what was just said, which is that somebody went into his hotel room, and I've been sitting on this for a little bit. It's very concerning that there was a warning sort of left. So that's why I said if you want one of those silent Faraday bags that holds onto your meds, you should be walking around with that stuff. It's scary as all hell when you're going against something that has no limit and no, doesn't necessarily leave a footprint. The federal government is monstrous. So there you go. All of you guys that listen, I don't know, it's not really a palate cleanser, but it does feel appropriate right now. So I'll just say, God bless you guys, and trust no one. The truth is probably still out there on this one. I hope we get to it, and I'll see you guys again next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.